other, am I AI ready? Isn't it?
Yeah.
So probably we need to start with ourselves, right? I will even ask myself, am I AI ready? Are you? Now ask your neighbor if they are AI ready. I can't see people talking.
Ready for anything.
Oh, nice. Maybe just a very quick one. Let me hear what your neighbor told you. All right. Let me hear. What did your neighbor say?
She's getting ready for AI.
Oh, she's very ready. Oh, that's awesome. She is. Definitely that wasn't you. All right. Let me also get to hear from this table.
My neighbor says that they don't have an option.
It's a doing thing. We are facing it head on. Nice. And lastly here, Brian, what did your neighbor say? His neighbor said they do not have an option. All they have to do is to be ready. What about here?
They said doing the already.
They are all ready. So, can we now say now that everyone in this room, except one person who said that they're not ready, so we can now agree that everyone in this room, they are ready for AI at their workplaces, isn't it? And probably, oh no. Let's get to hear someone saying no. It will be good to hear from them. Yes.
I'm still working on my team because of, well, I'd say they're my learning friends. So it takes a bit of pushing, encouragement, and force for them to get there.
Thank you. She's still working. There are things in the kitchen that she's preparing, isn't it? Together with her team. Now that was us. She just ran ahead of time a bit. Now how about them? Now that in this room we've all said majority that we are very much prepared, isn't it? How about them? So take a moment to think about the different teams we work with in the different departments, our places of work. Are they ready? Is our workforce ready for AI, or rather AI ready? Are they equipped? Do they know what is supposed to be done? Do they know how to use these different tools? Do they know how to apply them? Take a moment. Maybe you could also tell your neighbor how you think if they are ready. Let me see a conversation in the next 30 seconds, please. Are they ready? We've talked about ourselves inside here. Yes. How about them? Rebecca would like to tell us how she feels or what she thinks about her team or their readiness for AI. Rebecca?
I think I have to ready myself so that I can get my team ready, but I think as it is now, they are not ready. So I'm here to get ready myself so that I can get them ready.
Please give her clap, please. Awesome. So she says she wants first to be ready, then she can make her team more ready than they are right now, isn't it? One last person. Probably we didn't hear anywhere. Yes, we didn't hear anyone speak from this table. Probably it could be you taking one for the whole team.
Not sure whether the team is ready, but I think as she said, it's all about us pushing and sort of preparing them to be ready, and most importantly to be receptive, because again, if you keep forcing someone, they will keep resisting.
Okay.
Yeah, it's that reception that they need to have. Yeah.
Let's give him a clap, please. Thank you. And now my last question will be, maybe we can have a few people share. What is that one thing you wish AI could do for you? Maybe I can start with myself. If that thing could just wash dishes. Well, it can. But now, if only it could do it right now, that batch that I want. Who else? What is that one thing you wish AI could do for you? Sorry? Record. Oh, recruit. Oh, she must be the recruitment team. Will you trust AI to recruit a member in your team? You will not trust AI to recruit a member in your team? Not yet. Why? Why would you not trust AI to recruit a member in your team?
I think there is a lot of context and nuance that comes to hiring. And an accountant in a 3-person team and a 500 conglomerate are very different. They can say both accountants, but the skills needed in complexities are very different from something that is straightforward. And I think everyone's CV looks good now. You can use templates from AI, so recruiters' work is actually more. You need to be a lot better at reading signs from documents, from people interviews, and I don't think we're at the point where that data has gotten to a point where we have, this is a better CV than this other one. And then it comes also interview and meet the person. So not yet.
I have a counterpoint to what he was saying. I think, and well, it's an agreement, not a counterpoint really. I think from a recruitment perspective, AI has come a long way. So we're able to sift very quickly. But what I feel AI cannot do yet is measure character. And we hire based on character. At least we should be hiring based on character.
A clap for both of them, please. Thank you. So yesterday in one of the conversations with my teammates, someone mentioned this, that the first AI in a Toyota car was actually in a fielder. People are already laughing. And this is how it happened. You know when you have your team, your boys or your girls, you're going out, and then everybody has to confirm whether it is their door that is open. So everyone has to get out and you keep on banging the door. No, it's not you. Get out, confirm yours. Yes, bang it again. No, I don't think it's you. So I think the first point is it could tell you there is a door that is open, but the problem is it didn't tell you which door, isn't it? So if you're the driver, probably you want to ensure safety of your passengers. You'll get out and start banging all those. Boom, boom, just to ensure that every door is locked properly. Nowadays, I think with the improvements that have been done, the way technology has gained some momentum and changes through, it can even tell you which door is not locked, isn't it? It will even inform you if you have your lights on and maybe you forgot. And sometimes, if it's getting dark and you've forgotten to have your headlights on, it will even put them automatic on and maybe remind you for those others that we're still driving those others, isn't it? All right. There's a small session just maybe to get an understanding of how far we've come or where we are at the moment. Jess will be displaying something for us on the screen. We ready? All right. So we want to do a small exercise. So those that can be able to scan, simply use the QR code. Those that cannot, you can simply go to menti.com. This should be Mentimeter, right? Menti.com and use the code 48681238. All right, so which of these is not an AI tool? We have the first one, ChatGPT, the second one, Grammarly, then we have second one, PowerPoint, the third one, and Midjourney as the fourth option. So of these four options that we have, ChatGPT, Grammarly, PowerPoint, and Midjourney, which one of them is not an AI tool? Which one of them is not an AI tool? Okay, I can see very many people choosing PowerPoint. Should I say these are Tarakaniti votes? Or the other guy takes an early lead. Yeah. Okay. A quick scan through, we are about 43, 45 people around, so let's get the right answer. So from this, ChatGPT, Grammarly, PowerPoint, and Midjourney, most of us have said that PowerPoint is not an AI tool. What is it then? If it's not an AI tool, what is PowerPoint? It is a Microsoft tool, isn't it? So it's not an AI tool. Thank you. What year did AI first make a real appearance in the workplace? What year did AI make a real appearance in the workplace? Please remember, the key or the stressing point here is workplace. The reason why we are here today as well, isn't it? I wish we had an option 2025. When is today? 13th May. Should have been an option also. Probably there's someone who's getting this for the very first time, right? Yes, 1995, 1980, we have 2005 and 2020. Okay? Again, this is making me remember those days when we had 5 subjects in school and you had some guys competing with you. You remember those good people you used to compete academically with? And then you have your maths ready, you have your science, you have your histories ready, and you're telling them, just wait for me, my physics paper is not in. I think that's what is happening here between 2005 and 2020. All right, we are done with that. Let's get the right answer. But before that, Jess, we have 3 people that chose 1995. Probably, who will have an idea of what happened in 1995? Tafadhali, do not, don't say it is you who chose, it is anonymous. And if I happen to choose you or you happen to know what might have happened in 1995, we do not mean it is you who chose that. It could be someone else, isn't it? Yes. So what happened in 1995? Well, I see people shaking their heads. No idea. Okay. And in 1980? Okay. Someone is about to say, I didn't even exist then. In 2005, probably we all existed, right? That's for sure, but one thing I know in 2005, all of us existed. All right, 2020. So the correct answer is 1980. The reason why most of us might have chosen 2020 is at the beginning or during the COVID-19 period, when everyone now, and I'm sorry if anyone will be here who asked everyone to work from home. She's right there. To work from the office. At that point, everyone came to understand that it is very possible for work to happen when not everyone is at the office, isn't it? That's the point, maybe probably where we have most people who came in to choose 2020 as the option. But the correct answer is 1980. Thank you. Let's look at the next question. So true or false? ChatGPT means AI ready. True or false? Okay, so we have 9 saying true and 36 saying false. Jess, let's look at which is the correct answer. Majority have it. False is the right answer. ChatGPT does not mean we are all AI ready. I know, some of us probably we've seen those reports. You look at someone, the way you have your one-on-one conversations with them, they speak different English from the English that appears in those reports. You will even have, we want to synergize processes to ensure that we enhance productivity. But when you ask them in person, so what do? We are thinking of, yes, so ChatGPT is not to mean that we are AI ready. Who should lead AI readiness in an organization? We have HR, IT, leadership, all of the above. Who should lead AI readiness in an organization? HR, IT, leadership, all of the above. Wow. Brian, this might be so bad for you. No one is actually choosing anyone in IT. or IT are usually the problem around. They're the first people who we say they are the problem. Okay. Quickly, we have 2 have chosen HR, 6 leadership, of course 0 for IT, and most of us agree that all the options that we have should be taking leadership and readiness of organizations, AI readiness. The correct answer is all of the above. So everyone, it is everyone's responsibility. All right? Thank you. Jess? Which of these is the biggest risk of ungoverned AI use at work? We have AI-generated content and reports, confused employees, data leaks and inconsistent decision-making, more memes. I'll actually go with more memes. Those things hit very good in the morning, especially on a Monday, cold morning. AI-generated content and reports. Well, we will have very good ones. And there are also AIs that are making very good reports. The right answer is data leaks and inconsistent decision making. Everything that we do in one or another, it has to be regulated and governed the right way. Otherwise, we run at the risk of leaking data and making inconsistent decisions. In what way is AI like a gym membership? Paying for it, telling your friends you have it, actually using it properly, good for show and flexing. I think I'll go with good for show and flexing. Monday morning, actually, I did subscribe for that gym. Or we always say it as goals at the beginning of the year, our resolutions, gym subscription. But we wait for you for the first few weeks. Until February, we get to know if indeed it was a resolution or not. Actually using it properly, we have 31 people choosing this. So in what way is AI like a gym membership? Using it properly is the right answer. What is the one mistake companies make with AI adoption? Buying fancy tools, expecting employees to figure it out on their own, hiring robots, inadequate testing of AI. None of us thinks hiring robots is a mistake or that companies make. The right answer, as majority of us have pointed out, is expecting employees to figure it out on their own. And that is the main reason as to why we are here, and probably the question that we're trying to figure it out and answer today, if our workforce is AI ready. Last. Which continent is lagging in meaningful workplace AI adoption? Which continent is lagging in meaningful workplace AI adoption? Europe, Africa, Asia, South America. Wow, 30 already at Africa. All right, Africa is the right answer here. Probably it should be interesting in 1 second or 2 to get to hear what is it that is happening in South America for them that have chosen South America. At least for Asia, we can speak of several things and very many things that we know is happening over the other side. What is it that is happening in South America? Anyone? Again, we had 4 options. And we had to choose one, right? Moving on swiftly. Which of these is a real use case for AI in HR? Predicting attrition, rewriting bad emails, screening CVs faster, all of the above. Which of these is a real use case for AI in HR? So we have all of the above as the most preferred answer, which is the right one for all of them. All these options we have, they're applicable in HR, isn't it? Yes, we do very much and we use AI in a very good way, including the competition was stiff, regardless of the very good background and experience you have, but we had to consider other. You all know that statement, isn't it? Perfect. Thank you. Finish the sentence. AI is not just a tool. It's a trend, culture shift, scary robot, co-worker. Okay? And no one thinks AI is a trend. The other day people were talking about cybersecurity, or the other time was robots, and everyone thought, yes, it was all training. No one is thinking today AI is a trend? Oh, okay. A scary robot. Okay. 24 saying culture shift, and 21 a co-worker. So I think for this case we can use elimination method, isn't it? Yes? It's not a scary robot. That one we know. Is it? All right. And it's not a trend. So we have to choose between culture shift and a co-worker. So those good reports and good English, of course, we all chose a co-worker, right? Culture shift. No, I'm not talking about people and culture. You will not be in this case. In this case, you are not part of it. So not you directly. All right, so which is the correct answer here? Culture shift. Culture shift is the correct answer. Why? AI becoming a co-worker is part of culture, right? If we are shifting things, we are adopting technology, they become part of our day way that we work. They become part of our activities on a day-to-day basis, and that's what makes our culture, isn't it? Yes, how we do things. All right, thank you so much. Allow me to take this moment to welcome the CEO of Moringa School. Her name is Nikki Germany, for a few remarks as she sets the pace for this session. You're welcome, Nikki.
Thank you very much, Joachim. Good morning, everyone. As you heard, I'm Nikki, the CEO at Moringa, and it's a real pleasure to welcome you all here today. You can see that we have a full room now, and we actually had a flood of people wanting to attend this session today. We actually had to turn a number of people away. And I think that speaks to the fact that while there's a lot of buzz around AI, where there's a lot of hype around it, we know that we kind of need to be part of it. What do I actually need to be thinking about to make sure that this is successful in my organisation? And so the reason that we're here today is to start that conversation. It's a long conversation, but we want to start it. And that's why we've partnered with Workpay to hold this session this morning. So at Moringa, it's actually something that we're thinking about a lot. How do we become a platform for ensuring that those conversations happen and we can get the practical experience and the practical use cases that we need? I hope that most of you know that Moringa is the premier technology skilling organisation in Kenya. We do technology, we do data, we do AI. We also focus on upskilling working professionals. So we have a number of programs, part-time programs, designed to help people upskill, primarily in technology fields. And then we have an area of the organisation that's focused purely on corporate skilling and helping organisations close their skills gaps. And we're seeing more and more interest from organisations in that. We do a lot of work in data. Data, as you know, is the backbone of sort of building AI and making AI be effective. And we do work in skilling for AI fluency for managers, and a range of other things related to anything to do with technology, data and AI. There's a brochure on your table and you can get the QR code there. But the reason that we're seeing so much interest right now is because, you know, some are calling this the fourth industrial revolution. Like, the impact of what's happening is actually being quoted by none other than Google CEO Sundar Pichai as more transformative than electricity, more transformative than fire. Okay? So there's a whole range of thinking about what that looks like within your organisation. And it starts with things like knowing how to use tools like ChatGPT or Gemini or Microsoft Copilot, and it moves on and on to really AI becoming a true co-worker And not even just as co-worker you need to tell how to do something, but who knows how to do it themselves. And when that happens, the workplace changes. When that happens, jobs change, skills change. There's fear in the workplace about change. And it's the people in this room who are going to be responsible for leading that change. And it's not an easy thing to do. So as I said, we're here today to start that conversation. And I look forward to the rest of the day, and thank you for joining us.
I'd also like to invite Jess to give us also a few remarks. Let's clap for her as she comes.
Thank you, Joachim. Good morning. Good morning. We've all had breakfast, haven't we? Was it good? Okay, thank you. I'm very, very excited, and I think I really don't want to add so much on the conversation because Nikki has covered about why this is important to us, not just as Workpay, but as ecosystem players within this space. We are the custodians of the employees in our workplaces, and we owe it to them to ensure that we have made them as productive as they can be, as efficient as they can be. I think one of the things that has come out from these exercises that you've just done here with Joachim is that we know what AI is, and the question we want to answer is, are we using it the right way? I know people said they are AI ready, but I think we want to see that in action. We want to understand really, are we doing everything within the spectrum of what can be done to help our employees do better? And as Workpay, the reason why this is an important conversation, at the heart of what we do, and it's important that we've said Africa is lagging behind in AI, and what we've built is an engine to run payroll for Africa. We want to ensure that every other HR professional across Africa is enabled well to run payroll, to run HR operations. But that is not the only reason why AI is important to us, because we want now to trickle it down. When we say that HRs are part of the custodians, they are part of the decision makers in how AI is handled within the organization. We want them to understand and explain the skill gaps within the people that they manage. If we need this skill but we don't have it, are we saying that we are not setting up our people for success? And how do we do that? So putting all these minds together, it's always refreshing because we don't want to come and tell you, we also want to hear from you. We want to understand what can we do better, what can you help us do, both as players within the ecosystem to say that we are adding value. Everybody has a part to play in the value chain, and we want to say that if this is our part as Workpay and Moringa to organize this or to give a platform and a voice to the HR and tech ecosystem players, what is your part to play? And interestingly, the World Economic Forum noted that the AI and data analytics skills are the skills are the most rising skills, and by 2030 they will be the most needed skills in the workplace. And what we're trying to help HR professionals, business owners, tech leaders do is to understand the importance of this and start training early. It is going to be too late for us to get to 2030 and say, now can we start skilling for it? We will be yards behind. And part of the reason why we would say that we are lagging, not because we don't know this, but because we've not put our effort in the right place. So we hope this is the first of many conversations. As Nikki has said, we had so much interest in this event that we actually realized there is a gap in terms of knowledge. But the goal here is to ensure that this is a continuous conversation, that this is the beginning of many to come, that even as you start here as an individual, you're able to trickle it down within your networks of HR professionals to say, I have learned something today, this is what I will implement, this is the gap that you are closing in on, and it's important for everybody to join us. Thank you very much. I'm really excited about today. Karibuni sana.
And now and a better one for her, please. Thank you so much. I was about to say thank you, very important. I guess that was not funny. And I had to remind us to laugh. All right, Next, we are about to get into a very interesting discussion. Pauline is coming to lead us in the next session. She will be taking us through landscape of AI adoption in Kenyan workplaces.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Pauline Busisa. I'm from Kala. I receive warm greetings from Dr. Shiko, our CEO. She was not able to come today. She would have loved to be here, but we are happy to represent her. I see my colleague Joshua over there and a couple of friends. And thank you, Moringa. Thank you, Workpay, for organizing this. This is a very important conversation. We as Kala are doing a lot of work in the AI space, and we are very happy to be part of this conversation today. So even as we are talking about, getting our workforce ready. So for those of you who are parents, I have a Gen Alpha in my house. So yesterday I saw a video of a little boy whose mom was asking, so what do you want to be when you grow up? And he said, when I grow up, I want to retire. And so he was asked, okay, you want to retire? Why do you want to retire? And he said, because I want to be going to lunch with my friends and hanging out at home. So even as we prepare our workforce for AI, and as we're talking about preparing our workforce, maybe we should model, maybe we look frustrated to our children as we work. So be a bit happy and enthusiastic as you work. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to give a very brief keynote on talking about whether our workforce is AI ready, and looking at especially the AI landscape, the landscape of AI adoption in our Kenyan workplaces. So let me highlight a report that was done by PwC, and it talks about AI's potential contribution to the global economy by 2030. And the estimate is about 15.7 trillion USD. So we can see what how AI is likely to impact the global economy. And 2030 is just 5 years from now. So that's a major contribution. So putting it to perspective, let's look at the global shifts that are reshaping the workplace. And Jess has already spoken to this about the Future of Jobs report by the World Economic Forum. So they did a report that shows that by 2030, we'll have 170 million jobs that will be created globally. On the inverse, 92 million jobs will be displaced. But that means that there's a net gain of 78 million jobs, and a lot of this are spurred by the AI revolution. Also, there's 4 in 10 of our core skills are likely to change, which underscores the urgency of a lifelong learning and continuous upskilling. Again, Jess has mentioned this, and I'm happy Nikki has also spoken to this. At Kala, we work with a lot of young people. Actually, our median age at Kala is 26, I think. And we've seen a lot of, we actually have a couple of graduates from Moringa. They are top tier skills guys, so hire people from Moringa. They are doing a good job in skilling the AI workforce, the young people. And what will be critical is to ensure that even in our organizations, us as leaders in this room, we are continuously learning as well, understanding what this AI thing is, how it's going to affect us, and also putting in place measures that will help us to skill our workforce as well. And then in Sub-Saharan Africa, there's it's projected that Sub-Saharan Africa will supply 1 in 3 workers globally by 2050. This is a statistic by the AFDB. And what that does, it's positioning us as Africa as a global talent reservoir. And so we must harness it well to ensure that we are ready for this revolution that's coming. So what are some of the roles that are really growing fast? Of course, because of AI, we have AI and ML specialists. Data being the lifeline of AI, we have big data specialists, and then fintech engineers, because fintech is big as well, software developers, and especially the higher levels software developers, and cybersecurity experts. These are just a few of the examples. And then some of those that will be declining, we have admin assistants, data entry clerks, tellers as well. So what we should do is to ensure that we are acting fast as Kenya and as employers, so that we don't risk being left behind. So let's look at some of what's driving interest in AI in Kenya in particular. So one, there's a push for operational efficiency. The lady in green had mentioned that one of the things she desires AI to do is to hire, to be able to help in recruitment. So some of the very redundant tasks and some of the tasks that take up a lot of our time can be done by AI. So we want operational efficiency in organizations. There's also need to augment our workers and not necessarily replace. What this means is, what we want to do is to ensure that there's also adoption in our workplaces. One of the things that we need to do is to ensure that as we skill our workers, we are equipping them with the right tools and skills that will allow them to take up AI, so that their work is not necessarily replaced, they're not made redundant, but then they're able to take up jobs and utilize AI to be able to be more efficient in their work. And then there's the pressure, of course, to stay globally competitive. And we have a very youthful and tech-savvy population that we should take advantage of. So there's a lot of momentum, especially in our country and even in our organizations, but there's a lot of uneven readiness across sectors and companies as well. So let's look at some of the challenges that we are facing and what's holding us back. So there's a lot of interest, yes, but there's a couple of challenges. There's still very low AI literacy, to be honest, even among decision makers. So a lot of us are experimenting, and we are looking at it as a buzzword, but the actual literacy on what exactly AI is and its capability and what we can use it for in organizations is very low. So that's something that we need to tackle. Secondly, there's a lack of clear strategies. So there's a lot of, one of the questions that we saw from Mentimeter was around one of the risks is letting employees do what they want and just figure out AI on their own. So there's a lack of clear strategies within our organizations, and so a lot of our efforts are more reactive than proactive. And then in terms of infrastructure, we need a lot of very excellent data infrastructure to enable us to train our models, to enable us to run these AI tools. We need a lot of compute power, for example, and that is still very low in our country, unfortunately. And then there's a lot of fear and ethical concerns as well among leaders in organizations and employees. And then there's also a significant skills mismatch, whereas a lot of the training organizations are offering outdated curriculum that are not really equipping our young people for the jobs now. They are training our people for jobs of, I don't know, the last decade or something. So these gaps are not just technical, but they are very organizational and cultural. And so I'll give you a brief roadmap of AI readiness for Kenya. So how do we move from curiosity, the reactive to capability? So we have the Kenya AI strategy 2025-2030. It outlines a very ambitious vision, and it speaks to literacy, which is core to what we need to do, and AI literacy in particular, youth skilling, and digital infrastructure. And at Kala, we published a paper called Made in Africa, and within this paper, we defined a framework called the 4 horsemen of AI. And this is literally just the key pillars that we need for AI to work in our context and in our organizations. So these 4 pillars are: 1, talent. So all of us know this. We need to build a workforce that's equipped for tomorrow. And you can check out the talent readiness index that my colleague Joshua, who is here, actually co-authored. And it really speaks of the kind of AI talent that we have across all the 54 countries in Africa. And Kenya ranks 4, just behind South Africa, Egypt, and Tunisia. And then we have data. So data, again, as we mentioned, is really core to having AI. So without data, we have no AI, and we need to ensure that we have very good quality data that's accessible, and we need to invest in data that's open, inclusive, and secure as well. And then, of course, we have the compute infrastructure. We've seen people like Cassava Technologies, Huawei, who are starting to do a bit of work in this space, thinking about investing in data centers in our country. So we need sovereign, scalable, and sustainable AI capacity to be able to run our tools. And then there's also the markets, which we need to foster homegrown and AI-fast economy. So the other day, our team led by Dr. Shikowa in Kigali, and we were part of the Global AI Summit on Africa. And one of the critical things that was done was there's an Africa Declaration on AI that was signed by all 54 African countries. And alongside that, there was an announcement that there'll be a setup of a 60 billion AI fund for Africa to help catalyze all of this, the ecosystem and all of these pillars that we require for AI to work. So this is just a snapshot of what I've talked about the AI-ready nations. So we have South Africa leading Africa, and then we have Kenya at 4. And what's spurring Kenya is mobile innovation, and we have a very, very robust developer ecosystem that's driving AI adoption. So, as business leaders, what do we need to do? What's our role? A lot of times, AI is seen as a tech issue, but it really isn't. It's for us as leaders to be able to take it up and lead the transition. So according to Microsoft, they also published a paper called the AI Strategy Roadmap that again helps outlines like the 5 core pillars that will help us to define proper roadmap for our organizations. So one is to be able to define a clear business strategy that ensures AI serves as a strategic business objectives, and we're not just implementing it in an abstract manner. And then we have tech and data strategy, where we need to decide what to build, what to buy, or what to modernize. So we need to do this securely and at scale. And then we have the AI strategy and experience, where we need to tailor intelligent apps to real business needs. We need to look at our organization culture, where we build leadership buy-in into this. As we mentioned, leadership needs to champion the change and then develop the skills that are needed and foster collaboration amongst the various ecosystem players. And lastly, we have AI governance. We need very strong governance and accountability to alleviate some of the risks that we've seen, like data leaks and poor decision making. So lastly, as a conclusion, so what do we need to do to seize the future? The world of work is really being shaped in real time. And we've all seen how fast this AI is moving. Even from the COVID times to now, there's a lot that has changed. So what we need to do is to invest in the right policies. We need to work together as various players within the ecosystem to ensure that we are nurturing the right talent. And I'm happy that the right players are in the room. So even as we are doing this within our organizations, one of the critical things is to also ensure that broadly we are looking at curriculums across all levels of higher learning, so that the younger people, excuse me, from as low as high school, as they transition into institutions of higher learning, are already starting to have a very good idea of what AI is and tech in general, and how they can be able to be ready with market-ready skills for now and for the future. And then we need to build the right infrastructure as well. This requires some heavy investment, and I believe the investment is not just depending on other people from outside to come and make the investments, but even within our country, we can do this for ourselves. And we need to also make some very bold strategic steps as business leaders within our organizations, both here in Kenya and Africa, so that we can be able to become a global powerhouse. So we need government, especially around the policies and investments in infrastructure. We need academia, we need the private sector and civil society that work together intentionally. So let's not wait for the future to happen to us, but let's shape it together. Thank you.
Right, thank you so much, Pauline. Another round of applause for her, please. And maybe, Pauline, before you take your seat, probably there could be one or two people who have questions for Pauline, and they would like one or two things clarified, isn't it? Yes? So I will take this moment, perhaps maybe we have a few questions for Pauline. She can take them now as we prepare the stage for the next session.
Hello. You talked about being able to get the leadership buy-in into this. So how would you advise us, especially for those in HR, how do you get the business leaders, business owners to be able to buy into this?
So at Color, we do something very interesting. We have it's called an AI 101 masterclass for business leaders. So what we do is, because a lot of the apathy towards AI is coming from the fear of, I don't know what this is, it's too complicated, I don't know where to start. So what we do is we come into your organization and then we do a very basic training on the fundamentals and the foundations of AI. So we take you through what AI is, what it's not, what it's capable of, and then we tailor it to your specific organization and we teach you what can you do, what are these pillars that we're talking about, and what are some of the very, very practical steps that you can take within your organization to start to spur the interest among your workforce and to educate them in a way that simplifies what AI is for them and shows them that it's not necessarily coming to take over their jobs, and it's not necessarily going to make them jobless, but it's going to empower them to take up, once they learn these skills, then they are able to have an even higher earning power, and they're able to be more efficient, they're able to use their time to do more creative things and let AI do the redundant tasks. So one of the ways is just to encourage business leaders to first understand for themselves what this AI is, and then be the champions within the organizations to now talk about AI in a way that is really simple and makes sense, and in a way that shows the capability of AI working together with their workforce instead of it replacing their workforce. Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was a very, very good question. We will give a clap, please. Sorry. Yes, who else has a question for Pauline? All right. Pauline, thank you so much for that session.
Thank you.
Let's quickly get into the next session, please. We must be so much honored to be blessed with 2 Pauls in the same panel, right? Definitely this is going to be an interesting conversation. Thank you so much. So I will hand over the session back to Boris. Take over from here. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name's Boris. I'm the Vice President of Operations at Workpay. Very excited to be moderating this panel because I consider myself a complete AI novice and completely ignorant on the topic, and yet tasked with thinking about how to integrate it across a number of operational teams. So I'm in no way an expert, and happy to hear from my colleagues and friends here who are much more at the tip of the spear and the forefront of this, figuring out how to adapt it to our workforce. I had a clever audience engagement opening to this, but I understand we're behind schedule, and I know Nikki has to be out of here in exactly 45 minutes. So I'm going to skip that. I think we had a great introduction. It's been a pretty engaged audience. The audience has been well engaged throughout the morning, so I think we can jump right into the questions. I would just share something I heard on a podcast last night that I thought was an apt kind of point of comparison or metaphor, which is that there's a picture of downtown New York City from the year 1900, and you can see everything in the street is a horse being ridden or a horse pulling a buggy. And there's a subsequent picture of the exact same part of the city 10 years later, and everything is an automobile, some sort of car, some sort of motorized vehicle, not a single horse in the photo. And the commentator that I was listening to said if you had been able to interview the horses in 1900, they would have all expressed a deep sense of confidence in their workforce. We outnumber humans 3 to 1. We've been hoof and hand for thousands of years. We're great partners and friends. This is an unshakable partnership and bond. And the future, the outlook for our future as a workforce is very strong. And they would have been wrong. And so I wanted to ask, is anyone here in part because they fear they or their colleagues may be a horse? All right, you're all lying because you're not raising your hand. I have this fear, so I'm excited to be here and to learn from Paul K, and Nikki. And one of these Paul K's is my boss, so I'll do my best not to confuse them or mess them up. But grateful to have you guys here. And I think some of the prior speakers have said it's quite hard for those of us who are not AI technologists ourselves to really grasp like exactly what we're talking about and make this a very practical and applicable conversation. So I wanted to kind of start there and maybe ask each of the panelists to kind of give us what is their definition of what AI is for them. What does it mean practically? And then what is one use case or one way in which each of you are actually using AI yourself, individually or within your organization, on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis? So we can just start with the real practical, tangible, here and now, not the big kind of scary robot future. And maybe, Nikki, can we start with you?
Sure. Yeah, so I mean, the standard definition of AI is, something that simulates human intelligence. And honestly, that's been around since 1950. I need to check at the 1980 reference. But AI was first coined in 1956. So there's been a lot of things we've seen on AI up until the last couple of years, but we just haven't thought of them as AI. It hasn't been a term that's been in the collective conscience. And it's really what's happened with generative AI, where AI is able to create new content and where there is an interface that feels human-like, that you're able to interact with it in an easy way, that's really changed the world. So for the purposes of the discussion today, we'll really be talking about that new AI, where you can really generate content, become a co-worker and get a lot of things done for you. And being in education, there's a lot of applications of AI. And one of the ones that we did very early on was sort of integrate AI into our sort of communication system with our students, so that they're able to quickly get access to sort of personalized AI tutoring. So they're often able to do that. And we're also in the process of lead scoring to help our marketing and admissions team. We use it for curriculum development and a range of other things. And personally, I use it to track my fitness and nutrition as a life coach.
Great, so my name is Paul Kimani, CEO of Workpay. And anyway, for me, when I think about AI, for me it's two things. So number one is that it's a machine that's able to reason and a machine that's able to learn. When we talk about training the models and everything, basically a machine that's able to do the cognitive functions that a human being can do, and that's what makes this piece of technology really great, in the sense that it can reason, it can learn, and then from there it's able to do some of these tasks. So I think when I talk about personally, and also how these AI models have really been able to be pushed to us, is the ability of them being really assistants. I mean, I've had a lot of terms around co-piloting, around many of the tools that we have, which most of them have some co-pilot kind of a function, and I think that's most basic tools that we are using right now actually have that, and I'm sure most of us are using them either unknowingly or even sometimes really, really intentional in terms of what we are working with them. So the good news is even though you don't think you're using AI, in some way you're actually using it in terms of is it making your work easier? She talks about using fitness and whatever. Chances are high if you track fitness, if you track anything, at the back end of what they are using is actually AI in the way they are doing it. And if they are not doing it, they basically are going to be able to do it. And one of the use cases that I use and I really, really love is that it's able to really become sort of your partner when you think about things around brainstorming of ideas. Sometimes you have this thing that you want to do, or even these simple things of even an article you want to write. You already know what you want to write, but you have some things that are not very clear to you. And I think that's a very, very great example that I use, and I believe also most people use in terms of how do you make some of the things that you want to do clear to you, and then be able to sort of push them out there. So there.
I'm the other Paul, so Paul K, Paul Kasipu. Mine will be slightly different, and let me start with the 4 choices that we had, 1980. Actually, if you look at it, it was the 5th generation computer in Japan that started with AI in 1980. So I wasn't necessarily as blonde as I looked. But in terms of what AI is first I would start with any leader, and especially those of you here in either business, HR. There are 3 things I say will define most leaders. There's a mindset, there's a skill set, and a tool set. Mindset is where we say culture. Skill set is what your domain expertise as you walk along, and Nick, you'll have had this before. And then the tool set is about what then do you use to be a much more effective person. I'll put AI in the last part of a tool set. And there was a question, I think in the early days, there was a bit about computers are going to replace people. And they were not, they were just another aid. In fact, computerized cars were a bit of, I don't want a car that is automatic. I want to do a manual car. So I think it's a case of how you evolve, and somebody saying the 4th industrial revolution, that's where we are in terms of driving or trying to look for assistance for you to make informed decisions. The second part about why AI for me I think is a real one is when you look at decision effectiveness of leaders, there's something you call about analytics that you have. I normally look at them in 5 stages. There's what you call the descriptive, which is where HR does their bit. You just say people have not gone on leave. It's a question, so what? Then you go to the diagnostic analytics. Then you move into predictive. I think the bit about if this goes on, then this is going to happen. And then there's a bit about prescriptive, where you can then use AI to help you with not just what, but the so what and the now what. And then the 5th one is about the big bit. So I would say that is how I look at AI. Now my use case started when I was at KQ, and I was recruiting pilots. And sometimes you'll have to assess beyond just talking to somebody. I know somebody, my brother, they say their character, but actually AI can predict character, because you look at some of the trends and some of the things that you've done, and you can. That's why you do profiling. You can tell when somebody's at their best, when they're at their worst. And this gut feel of saying gut feel is backed knowledge doesn't necessarily hold. And the last one was at KQ. I was first one, was at Safaricom. When I joined about 8 years ago, I was a CHRO. I had about 250 IT personnel. By the time I was leaving, I had 850 out of the 6,000 employees that I had. We partnered with Moringa and others to start building that future skilled kind of mindset. So one more skill. The first one that we did, even for the CEO, was AI 101. So I think that's the kind of thing that is not a nice to have. It is going to be an imperative for businesses. Thank you.
Great, thank you. It's helpful to know that each person here is actually using it in different ways, but also has slightly different perspectives. I want to address my first question to Paul Kimani, which zooms out a little bit. And Paul and I shared recently an article, I hope you recall, Paul, about the CEO of Shopify, which is a billion-dollar e-commerce company, who had issued a tech manifesto to his employees, saying that it is absolutely mandatory for all employees, regardless of their role, technical or otherwise, to integrate AI as a mainstream day-to-day part of their work, and that failure to do so was failure to perform and subject to termination effectively, and that this was effective pretty much immediately. And he said, in regards to AI, stagnation is slow motion failure. If you're not climbing, you're sliding. And so Paul, as another tech CEO, wanted to ask if you feel he's right, And in what way does what does this look like in Africa? And particularly, are there countries or companies or sectors here on the continent that you think are really climbing and showing more maturity than others in how they're embedding AI into their operations?
Thanks, Boris. I 100% agree with him. And for those who are keen to check on what especially tech CEOs or the big companies are thinking about AI, of course, they are the ones who are leading. We think about Google and they are really invested in it. But also I also saw another email from Fiverr, for those who know, like the biggest freelancing tool globally. And he also sent a similar email to his employees telling them, hey, you know what, AI is actually coming for your job. And you think about that's coming from somebody who has built a business around freelancing, and he was very, very clear in the way he put it. And I think that should be probably where we need to start as leaders. Like, number one, we have to be very, very honest with ourselves and really understand. I saw some people comparing AI with even things like calculator. Someone was saying that when calculators came, people say that's going to take accountant's job. But people need to understand that this is a very, very different technology that we have in our hands right now. And we need to really understand that it's going to actually change the way we work, the way we live in ways that are really, really big things that we don't understand. And what the Fiverr CEO was telling his employees that the tasks that we consider easy today are going to be non-existent. They're going to be done by machines. And the tasks that we consider hard are going to be the new easy. So anything that you think that you do is hard is going to be the new easy. And the things that we think are impossible today are going to be the new hard. So things that you actually think that you don't have a way that you can wrap your head around doing it is like, it's going to be like the very, very hard thing that you're hired to do. And that really, really hit hard to me in terms of, we are a tech company, so as you could imagine, we have like very, very heavy engineering workforce in what we work with. And for the longest time, engineering has been considered like the cream de la cream in terms of workforce. They are the highest earners globally. They are the ones who, probably considered to be some of the safest roles someone could take or career path. But you look at what is happening right now in the tech space. I don't know that anyone have heard a term that is called vibe coding. It's like you can just vibe through coding and actually just build solutions and tools that actually can be put out there to be used by users. So even the safest and the hardest roles that are out there, AI is going to change that in ways that are so big and in ways that are so monumental that is going to require other leaders to really think about it from a strategy point of view in terms of how do we prepare ourselves and how do we prepare our workforces for this. And the good news and the bad news is like, this is not only for employees, this is also for our leaders. AI is also going to affect the way I lead my organization. AI is also going to affect the way my organization looks like, and I have to be able to really think about that. You saw the report by Pauline from Kala in terms of what has been done and where we are, talking from Africa perspective. And AI is going to a level, to your question about countries, where it's more about even sovereignty, right? So where are we in terms of how we are thinking about AI? You saw the US, of course, they are the ones who are leading. China gave them a check the other day, and they thought about them. Europe probably are still figuring out where they are as far as this is concerned. And then the question is like, also where are we in Africa in terms of like, there are very good stats in the space of people management, and I like stats like 1 out of 3 people are going to come from Africa. We are going to be actually the workforce for the globe. Everyone else is declining from availability of workforce, and on our end, that is what is growing. We have more people than we can provide jobs for. And the danger of that is like, are we going to be able to have jobs that are available for these people to work on? And some of these jobs are going to be able to be done by machines. And are we having our people ready? This 1 out of 3 that are going to come from this continent, are they actually ready in terms of taking up some of these roles, are we going to lag behind on this? And that's the danger that I see, is that we might have the workforce, but as the workforce ready for them to be able to do that. And the good news is that some people are doing it, like Cassava, led by Strive Masiwa, the founder of Econet, and I saw our very own KRA the other day trying to do, I read an article on how they are using AI I think it's in cargo or something around cargo. And the thing that struck me was like, they were talking about the pilot, and they were saying that the challenge they are facing is like, the pilot alone is going to take, I think, 100 million in terms of computing power that they need. And that's a challenge that they are going to continue facing is, are we investing enough, not only in talent, but also in the infrastructure, which is quite expensive, that is going to be one of the challenges. But it's quite exciting, but to play devil's advocate here, I think you're right to be worried. Then what do you do with that worry?
Thanks for assuaging my fears there. Nikki, you train current leaders, future talent, and try to get them employed. Are you seeing in Kenya any organizations that are sort of aligning with what Paul's saying and with what Shopify is saying, and kind of adopting AI very strategically, systematically, top down, and hiring accordingly? Or is it more experimentation at team, individual, departmental levels? Like, how do you assess?
Sure. So firstly, I think that we need to separate building AI and the skill sets required for that from consuming AI. And building AI, you're talking about machine learning engineers, data scientists, AI architects, and the larger companies are working in that direction. But it is expensive, there is a lot of infrastructure needed, and it's hard to figure out how to get it right. But the larger companies are doing that. But the majority of companies are still in the, how do I consume this? And how do I make sure that my workforce is consuming this in a way that's makes sense from a data privacy perspective internally, and from a just really understanding what are all of the different use cases. So right now, as I said, there's a bit on the building side, mostly at big companies, but very much it's about how do we consume and how are we doing it. And we're not really seeing organizations having lots of workforce impact on that. What we are seeing is people saying, I was going to hire X number of people, now I'm only hiring X minus Y number of people because AI is doing some of that job. So we do expect to see hiring slowing down, but people are being very careful when they're rolling out AI within the organization to actually say nobody's going to lose their job because of this. We are going to reskill, and that reskilling part is a really integral part of that conversation.
Great. Paul, Kasimu, are you seeing something similar? I know you work with global-facing organizations, so how are you seeing Kenyan or African businesses comparing when it comes to AI planning and workforce transformation?
So I would agree with my colleagues, and I would say context is everything. If you look at the context we are operating in, first, fourth industrial revolution, check that. Two is the majority of the workers now. Alpha is coming in, Gen Zs have taken us around, but you'll find the digital natives are now becoming the majority. So millennials, baby boomers are now easing off. So the first thing is, it is not business as usual. So that is one thing to say, context is the one thing. The other piece I've recognized is when you look at the business strategy, they're going to compete. Because the question was asked, how do you get leadership to lead and own this particular culture shift? I agree. I think that was a bigger piece that I have witnessed, and I would say without fear of contradiction, I work for an organization that said, how do we transition from a telco to a technology company? And the next piece was, what will it take for us to be in there? Now my personal example, I kept headcount flat for 8 years, but I grew my tech talent from 250 to 850. And part of it is what Nikki said, upskilling, reskilling. And that was a point where we said, somebody in the call center how do you equip them with the future skills so that they don't have to worry about jobs? And I stood before the 6,000 of my colleagues and I say, I don't believe in job security. If you're in job security, then your mindset is the wrong one and I need to have a conversation with you. How do you build employment security? Because then employment security means you are fit for the next big thing. And what then we did was, I think what now we are seeing is that where organizations look at their strategy and say, what are the core skills that we need to have? Yes, infrastructure is expensive, and you may say maybe some of those organizations can afford it. But in terms of usage, it has been democratized. You can actually find small bits. So Workpay can help you with your payroll. A payroll that you can even start saying, where are you spending your money? Is it in the right place? There's some analytics, and I'm not marketing for Paul K. But it is a case of saying, user basis. You don't have to have the whole outlay, but you can go for targeted use case. I used to have some partners to help me with recruitment. I didn't need to do that myself. I went to Moringa to say, come and help me upskill my team. And we worked on a multi-year plan. So I think you can still come and start identifying your pain points where you can then start working in terms of how do I upskill, reskill, but make your team, and this was a question I asked, are you future ready? That was a question that we asked everybody. And then we asked, what will it take for you to be?
Great. I think that's a good segue for a question I had for Nikki, which is what does it take to be future ready? And when we look at the statistics that Paul's citing, the future is African, and to take your point about build versus consume, for those of us here who we see ourselves and our team as likely consumers, and we need the skills to consume, how do we, as individual leaders, as organizations, what are the skills we should be prioritizing, and perhaps what is Moringa prioritizing as the skills that in your corporate training when it comes to AI?
Yeah, so most people we speak with are really at the beginning of that journey. And so we're really focused on starting that journey with people. And so one of the things that you actually need to, and so honestly, for most people, that means using a tool like ChatGPT, but making sure it's being used responsibly and properly within the organization. So you actually need to start with some preparation internally about that. So for example, which tool do you want your organization using? Do you need your employees having the corporate account and a personal account so that you're not getting mixed up? What types of organizational data and information is it okay to put in there, and what types is it not? And so all of those questions actually need to be addressed up front in order to be able to go forward with a strategy as to how you want to move forward. And that's the basic level. So working with your tech teams, or if you don't have the education to do that, working with people who do, to help you make those decisions. And then the next level is about getting people to be able to just utilize the full functionality of tools like that. And I'm just going to keep referring to ChatGPT, but there's a lot of things in there with related to deep research, with related to being able to set up your own custom GPTs, with related to being able to have keep all of your GPTs related, or all of your chats related to a particular topic in one area. And so just knowing how to use that really, really effectively in all of the different use cases is the next step of skilling. And then it goes into more specific use cases by department or by function. And so HR is actually an area that AI is changing rapidly. And so what are the tools out there for HR? What are the use cases? And honestly, one of the best ways to do that is to research, is to ask the AI itself, because you'll get a lot of examples of that. And of course, you can also work with people like us, people like Carla, who have a lot of examples of that as well. And then you want to do that based on your biggest pain points, as Paul just talked to, and understand where you can get the most bang for your buck by investing in tools that will help you in that particular area and working on that change. And along with that, comes the cultural change, the fear of change, the business transformation change, and leading that as you would any digital transformation project. So that's a way to get started, and then it kind of goes from there.
Great, thanks. Let me jump to Paul Kimani, because we've mentioned HR tech, and HR being a place where AI is having an impact. And it strikes me that one way to motivate employees or to motivate a workforce to adopt AI is perhaps to see it in action, helping them get paid on time, accurately, early. So for those using Workpay, what can they expect in terms of AI helping out with payroll?
Cool. I'd like to try to give a bit of background on what you do so that people really understand that, and also like what Paul said, of looking at AI as a tool. This reminds me of a conversation I was having with my CTO yesterday night about seeing AI as a tool in terms of everything that you do. And you think about it as a tool, then you don't see it as a solution. What you think is like, what is the problem? And not all problems are solved using AI. Right now, the pressure is like any problem you think that AI can actually solve for you, some of them you don't actually need AI to be able to solve them. And that's where we start from. So I know there have been a lot of excitement around AI the last 2 years or so, and we try to look at most of the solutions out there, and they have really like built a lot of AI component or AI features inside the product, and sometimes I struggle to really figure out how do those AI components really make my life better or make the product better. I think that's where we started from as a company. Is we know what we do. We are building, for those who don't know, we are building payroll engine, and the payroll, at the core of payroll is compliance. And we are not doing this from one country. We are doing actually across the continent, and we have been able to, do this right now. We are at the cusp of really actually covering the whole continent from south to north, from west to east, We actually think about any country, you may think of probably Workpay can actually run payroll in those countries. And that is really a hard job for most of you who are in HR, understand payroll, how essential this is and how delicate it is. And the way we are thinking about AI now in the context of this, in like Boris is saying about paying employees on time, because that's what actually our mission is like. We want to help employers, people like you, to pay their employees on time every time, regardless of where they are, regardless of how they work. So that for us is very, very key. And the way we are trying to use AI right now is what stops us, or what is the blocker for us to be able to do that and do that the right way every time. And I'm going to give like a very, very basic example for us. So think of an employer who has employees in 5 countries. So we want to pay an employee in South Africa, in Kenya, in Nigeria, and in, going to use Sierra Leone, because we actually pay employees in such countries. So for us to be able to do that, we're probably going to use like 5 payment providers. So you could think about like the way we could use AI in this case. So we prioritize for 3 things. Number 1 is cost. We are in business, we want to make money. Number 2 is reliability. I want to use the most reliable provider who is able to do that. And then the 3rd thing is time. All of us are employees, I would imagine so getting that payment on time is quite important. So the way we could use AI, some of the ways here, trying to figure out is like, how are we able to predict which channel to use in which market? How are we going to be able to ensure that this employee is getting payment on time every time? And then that's us as a service provider. Then we come to employers. You ask yourself is like, why do employers take time to pay their people? Because they are tasks that they're actually doing for them to be able to do that final act, for them to be able to pay. So are they trying to figure out, is the payroll balance, are we having variances between the last month payroll and this month payroll? Are all employees having their payment details, their banking details? People who are at the process of exit and they have not finished the process, how are we able to use AI to be able to make those things so easy for you as an employer to be able to make those decisions faster, correct them faster, because it's not just telling you this is where the problem is, it's also giving you possible solutions and how you're able to resolve some of these things, and then you're able to do that. Because at the end of the day, for us, it's not about the AI. At the end of the day, it's not just having a tool on top of our tool. For us, it's like, how does it still help us in our mission, ensuring that our employers pay the employees on time, regardless of where they are and regardless of how they want to be paid.
Awesome. Paul, Kasimu, when we think about the kind of skills that Nikki has described, those kind of like 3 steps that a workforce needs to acquire as an effective AI consumer, and then you think of the different tools and the kind of like high-level strategy questions we've been talking about for companies that want to take that kind of bold Shopify approach. For the HR leaders in the room, what is their role? How can they, or how should they perhaps contribute both to the high-level AI strategy, but equally ensuring practical, tangible adoption of skills on the ground in the way that Nikki's describing?
It's a good question, and I think that's why we are all here. I wish I had a silver bullet to say, do this, then all your problems are done. How I would relate to that is, first start with the business strategy to say, this is where we want to be. Because I've always told HR that the biggest problem is you speak your own language, you don't speak the business language. Because if you can come and say, this is the direction we are taking as a business, the next thing is, what do we require to get there? And you'll find, in our case, we started looking at what are the core skills that will make us different, put us in a competitive edge in terms of competing with the best or with the rest of the crowd. Out of that, and this is one of the things, in fact there's an organization I'm working with now, is where you start identifying some of the personal development kind of interventions to build core capabilities. So the first thing is to identify some of those core capabilities and say, we need somebody who can do data analysis. We need somebody who can help us with reports that provide insights. In consumer, we need somebody who can give us the view of the customer. In terms of how we do, so efficiency, you've heard also what Paul has said. So you need to agree, and Nick has also said it. What are some of the current organizational challenges we have? Efficiency is one. How do we drive productivity in the workforce? How do we drive customer obsession in the team? How do we drive a high performance culture? I think that will be our starting para. The next thing is where now you identify. In fact, I would say the danger is avoid the me too. You know, these guys are doing it, I also want to do it. Then you actually have no basis for doing what you're doing. So identify perhaps some critical roles that you can say, from a user point of view, can we identify some 3 or 4 roles that need to be upskilled? And once you do that, then you can ask, at what level of upskilling do you require? Now, in my case, I would do something I call a multi-year talent plan, where you say, year 1, let's get everybody to, or let's demystify AI. And you can use partners who can come in and tell the whole organization, what is AI? What does it mean? What does it not mean? What are the myths around that? And the moment I got people to talk, Shiko was one of my staff at one point, Carla now, pass my regards. We'll then start demystifying and then saying, make it real. Because if you start copying what everybody else is doing, you will flop as HR. So identify the key pain points, identify the key skills that you require, then establish a clear plan of how do I go through this. Talent has about 5 B's. This is now HR speak. Talent strategy is about buy, and sometimes you may not be able to buy or afford to buy. You can build, you don't have the luxury of building. You can borrow, and that's where you go to the likes of Workpay, and you go to Moringa and say, I want to borrow this one small piece or component. And then you can, of course, bind and bounce. I normally say is buy, build, borrow, bide and bounce, and now there's bot. Bot is how do you automate some of those pieces? We automated customer queries. How many of us have gone to DSTV in person lately? Do you even know where the offices are? Those of you who subscribe. So there are things you can automate and you sort out some of your pains. I think that's what I did. And then I started the piece around, I went digital learning. And in our digital learning, my digital philosophy was threefold. Number one, it's atomic. Learning is atomic, so small bits. Don't seek to certify everybody as a PhD in AI. Small bits. Number two, it's continuous. And number three is collaborative. So you get the whole organization to work together. Because when you do that, you start driving the demand-led piece of we want to drive AI capabilities. So I can go on and on, but mine is start with the strategy, look at the core skills that you need to have, and then ask, what is our strategy for it? How do we build, we buy, we borrow, because you can borrow some of those things. But I think that will be my 2 cents worth of response.
Thank you. Once you get there, and you've decided on which of the B approaches you're going to take, then I think you're faced with, that's kind of strategy, skills, and then you find your approach. But then I think you get to culture, and we talk about HR, but I think a lot of companies more accurately use the term people and culture these days. And culture, I think, is where you run up into, that's where kind of the rubber meets the road, right? Like, you potentially run into resistance or skills gaps. And thinking of resistance, I mean, I still sometimes find myself, banging on to young employees and old employees about, using the cloud storage and record keeping rather than saving things on your hard drive. And that seems like sometimes a hard area of change management. So when I think about this kind of major cultural shift, I'm imagining that many of the HRs in the room see this as quite a daunting project. And you are all different types of business leaders who have undoubtedly faced other types of kind of change management projects. I'd love to hear from each of you, like, how you see this as different and what you would advise those in the room as they approach, once they get to that point. They've done the strategizing, they've done some skills development, but they need to mainstream that Shopify vision of like mainstreaming day-to-day use and adoption and consumption, as you said, Nikki. Like, what would you advise people as they approach that daunting change management project?
Let me start because I have the mic and then I'll pass over. And when I joined Safaricom, I joined just because of culture. So this is something very clean and very passionate to me. And I went through the change curve by adapted it into 3 portions. And I said, whenever you're leading change, you go through 3 phases, without a doubt. First one is make it clear. So the awareness is there, you remove confusion, you deal with the myths that are in there. But negative perception also comes in, because you're dealing now with that resistance that people will say, what is this? And why can't I focus on the things that I started with? So the first one is make it clear. The second bit is, and this is the core, is make it real. And making it real then creates the piece where people now own it. And they say, what does it mean? What does AI mean for a leader? What does it mean for the different levels of the organization? So that would be my next piece of make it real after making it clear. And the third one is make it stick. And making it stick is about how you drive. There are 4 things I say culture lands with. First is a language. Establish a common language in the organization where you can say, can we be future ready? It's as simple as that. Are you future ready? What will it take to be? So that the first one is language. The second are some routines or rituals that you need to have. And you know what? You can even have monthly immersions where people can come and get people to come and talk about what was the journey. Get a leader to speak to it. I was texting Peter last night after his Citizen interview, and I was like, great stuff, because he's talking about the journey we took from being a telco to a technology company. So the second piece is about the rituals or the routines that you do. The third is about the symbols that you want to have. And one of the symbols is paper, a paperless organization. Can you look for something that tells the people or tells your people how that journey is? And then the last is about stories. Culture is stories. So you start with language, you go to rituals, you go to symbols, and the stories where you can get a few people to talk about how AI has helped. It will make people start embracing it and dealing with the fear of what if, because I think that is where I've seen. That for me is how my 101 on how to land change. Thank you.
I agree with you 100%. It's hard to add anything on that. But I think for me what I would add is just one thing. Just as any other change, I think it makes it easier when people understand the why behind it. So you make them understand why you want to do that. And probably the simplest is, how is it tying to the company goals and the company's objectives? How will this change make your organization better? How will this change make the individual employees better? I think that's very, very important, probably really hard for you as as a leader, especially sometimes you could also be conflicted. You are trying to also figure out how that is going to work. But I think it's quite important that you make the organization as a whole understand the why behind this change, in this case, why you need to adopt AI as a strategy of your organization.
Yeah, and just two further things from me. One is change is fear, okay? So you need to be prepared up front as to how you're going to address that fear, because that's the question that's going to be the elephant in the room, is what does this mean for my job? And so you can't shy away from that. You need to either understand that you're actually saying, as some organisations we know have said, you're not going to lose your job because of this, or you need to be transparent about, you don't know, you intend to reskill, all these things, but you can't shy away from that because it's the elephant in the room and you need to be prepared to answer it within your organisation. And then the other is, as you think about the type of culture that you want, not just culture change, one of the most important cultural traits for the future will be a culture of continuous learning. So this is not a culture change for now, this is a culture change forever. And that continuous learning is one of the most important traits that any organisation needs to have.
Awesome, thank you. I think that's a great place to stop. I had other questions, but you need to leave 2 minutes ago. We also want to open it up for Q&A. Do you want?
Yeah, apologies everyone, there's just an unavoidable conflict, but yeah.
Cool, no problem. Jess, do we have another mic for the audience? Or should I just give up mine? Great, the floor is open. Feel free to ask a question. If you don't mind just standing, saying where you're coming from and what you do, and then directing your question to whoever you like.
Hi everyone, my name is George from G Kamal Consulting, a HR consulting agency. So first of all, just thank you to the panel for the presentation. My question is to Nikki. Just borrowing from Pauline's presentation, that by 2050, a third of the workplace will come from Africa. And from the statistics we had as well, that Africa is lagging behind from an AI adoption. So we will be providing a third of the workforce in a space where AI will be leading the charge. So my question is, in many ways, that future talent is actually not ready to supply to the world what is needed. So my question to you is, in what ways do you feel your organization can partner with mainstream education, both at primary level, tertiary level, so that we actually do have an Africa that's ready to feed the world from a talent perspective? And what initiatives?
Yeah, it's a really great question, and I think one of the great questions facing us as a continent, as we look at the huge surge of young people coming into the workforce here and the needs of what that is. One of the really interesting things that we're seeing a lot of interest just in tech in general from international organisations in hiring from a digital remote work perspective, people here in Kenya and in other places in Africa. So we're actually seeing that interest, and we expect that interest to grow over time. But how do we get our young people skilled to do those roles? It does need to start, much earlier in the organisation. China is, everybody's learning AI in primary school in China. It's a government edict. And so how can we make that happen? We have other challenges around devices and infrastructure and all kinds of things. So that's one aspect of it. But the other, I think, is that we need to make sure that when people get to sort of higher education, that the skilling that we're providing is very practical and very driven by what by what industry needs, and not just skilling for the sake of it. And so I think that that's the area certainly where we feel that we and the other ecosystem players can make the biggest difference, is to just make sure that that skilling is really, really practical, and that there are people out there who are also supporting skilling that's affordable for everybody. So MasterCard Foundation gives a lot of money for skilling. A number of other organizations do that as well. Google and Microsoft are doing a lot of free skilling. And so that's going to be critical to ensuring that people have those skill sets.
Other questions? Don't be shy.
Good morning. My name is Veronica, HR practitioner transitioning to an executive directorship role. I feel like of the panelists, all Workpay has the easiest task, because payroll has systems that you really actually do need AI to facilitate your compliance. But then I think the last case, disciplinary case I handled, had to do with character. And we actually lost a grant because the team that was tasked to manage the grant, at least the reporting component, consistently using AI, and the partner reporting, this report is AI generated, blah, blah, blah. And I felt like the team worked harder to counter the rating that you get, as opposed to actually doing the work. Thanks to hiring Gen Zs, we lost a grant, and which means you lose a whole team and all that. So I want to direct that to Paul, who said character can be infused in AI generational tools, in which case, how do we get to the place where, for someone who AI has burnt, how do you get an organization or people to trust? Look at the panelists, not necessarily Gen Z, highly likely millennials, and those are the people who set systems, had the patience to build organizations over time, and some may actually truly not trust anything AI related. Thank you.
It's a good question, and I wanted to add something to what Nikki said about how you can work through. Pauline talked about the strategy, the digital strategy in the country. It has 3 tiers. So there's a piece about AI literacy, there's about youth, and then the piece around digital infrastructure. And I remember 3 years ago, I did something called the digital talent. I went industry digital program. I brought about 50 organizations, including tech companies and universities. And we say, this is a team sport. It cannot be an individual organization. And particularly because people are competing for the same talent. But Nick is also right. We have, in fact, I went to a place, the talent factory, or there's a factory somewhere, 600 kids who are working for the rest of the world. They don't work for Africa. They're actually supporting America, Europe on digital skills, and they're somewhere in Nairobi. I'm not sure where they are, but I know where they are. 600 at any one time as a shift. So there's that piece that is actually working, but it's also starting here, and then how do we create that base? Apologies for, really sorry to hear you lost a grant. And Africans never die of natural causes. They blame the neighbor, or it is Gen Zs, which is okay. But Paul also said, and it's something I said earlier on, AI is a tool. It doesn't replace also everything else. I've seen people recruit, and you recruit based on a profile or a psychometric test where even the questions being asked are culturally not relevant to our culture. You're asked which between summer and winter, and you're like, when is, now we are in winter now, because July is winter. So you find you lose people. So I think it's also a case of, and you have the bit about the gym. I think if you use AI for everything, then you lose it. Know when to use it, but also where do you add your own insight. So use it as a tool, not as a replacement of intellect or even yourself. But you can use it as part of the data points that come in. If you ask me what AI is about, is removing the repetitive operational stuff. But AI does not replace the person and humanity. So use it as an aid, not as a replacement of yourself. Thank you.
And just to add to that, understanding the pitfalls of AI is a really important part of your AI skilling.
Yeah. I think also I'd like to add something there. I think with any change, you remember when COVID came, we had to send our teams to work from home. I think the biggest thing is like sort of the work shifted a lot to the leaders to be able to manage that change and to ensure that actually people working, how are actually people working when they're working from home and actually is work happening. And I think it's the same thing with this AI thing. Again, probably as a leader, you need to understand that you're going to do front loading, a lot of work for a start. To be able, probably that person who did that, like AI probably gave like a really, really nice report, like what am I even going to change here? This is the perfect thing that whoever needs it. But is there a clear strategy, a clear direction from leadership on how this should be used? And also, is it like, are there guardrails that also ensures that such a thing doesn't happen? So I think with any other change, probably as leaders, we need to understand that probably we need to work harder at the beginning until this becomes a mainstream tool, like the way we use Google, Microsoft Word, we know how it works, everybody knows how that works. Probably that could be probably one of the things that could help in the beginning, and then later people will get used to using it more responsibly.
Thank you. Nikki, I know you have to go, so just want to say a big thank you for hosting and participating. Can we give Nikki a round of applause? Thank you so much. Do you want to exit stage right?
I'm very disappointed to have to miss the rest of the sessions, but look forward to hearing how it goes.
Thank you. And Jess, do we have time for a couple more questions? All right, great. Anyone else? Questions for the polls? Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is John. I'm the head of HR at Physics International. We're in the BPO space. And when it comes to the BPO space, you'll find that it's customer experience intensive. So part one of my question will be how we get to balance the human intelligence and AI. And also, there's big talk about we are creating the Silicon Savannah. Kenya is getting to this space whereby we're really growing in terms of AI integration and all that. What more or what other strategies as companies can we be able to implement to be able to have a part of this cake? When she talked about it being, we have a 15 trillion contributing, right? I don't know if I got that figure right. Also, how can you be able to tap into that? I don't know about everybody in the room, but I want a piece of that 15 trillion, right? Thank you.
Can we get 3 questions in a row? And then we'll hit them all. I hope you guys are writing them down.
Good morning. Yes, thank you very much for these wonderful presentations. My question is towards, there's a lot of talk about AI, but I've not heard about how is it impacting business, especially in Kenya SME sector. We have been told that SMEs are driving the economy in Kenya, employment. I am aware some are very good at it, but how do we cascade to them so that it translates into efficiency, productivity, and of course revenue? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Daniel. I am an executive recruiter, and we also do a lot of talent advisory. So my question is a lot more on the training end. So we're speaking a lot about 1 in 3 people being that global workforce. And we don't have the institutions that are training these people. And I'm wondering, maybe we can borrow some of the things that have happened with production moving maybe to China, and that has changed that entire workforce. So how can maybe some of the organizations that we are in be how we train that workforce? Because 1 in 3 globally means that those people are here first. So those are the workers that we are working with now. So if they are not trained within our organizations now, it's us who lack. I think Paul Kasimu mentioned 600 people working for a different organizations. And now we have AI and we have all these problems. And maybe AI being the tool that we use in the problems that we are facing in our organization, that's how we train that workforce. Because the education sector is not there yet, and maybe it won't catch up for a while. That's why institutions like Moringa exist and many others. So my question is, how are we training that workforce?
So I think we had the 3, yeah? So how do we get a piece of the trillions in the pie, impact on SME sector, and training the existing and future workforce?
Cool. I'll attempt to answer about the being part of the AI economy globally, and also in terms of training. So, like the whole premise of how we build our company Workpay is that we believe that Africa is going to be the provider of workforce for the world. Like, we're really betting on that 1 out of 3 being here. The same thing you're doing in the PPO, like they're really betting that the global organizations are going to really hire people from here, and our bet goes further that these people will not need to migrate or go to those countries, that they're actually going to work from here, and then ensuring that they are not part of the 78 odd million jobs that are going to be lost. How are we going to be able to ensure that those people actually are transitioning that? So I think, for me, I think starting at organizational level, and I think that's where companies like Moringa exist, is number 1, we need to be able to start at our level. Do we ensure that people actually within our organization are actually trained? And then we go past that and we ask ourselves, how do we actually contribute to what is happening, not only in our organization, in our way, but also outside? Is it from a country level? Is it from institutions coming together and figuring out if you are, for example, and I've seen these people who are, for example, AI experts who really understand AI deeply, going even, for example, to universities, for example, and offering master classes in terms of people actually understanding what this means, and we continuously over time continue building this AI knowledge amongst our people, so that again they don't get replaced. I think my point is it has to be collective. We have to think about not the other person doing it. It has to start with you. What can you do in your organization, and what else now can you do outside your organization? In terms of impact of AI on SMEs, I work with thousands of them, SMEs, and I think I look at it from a positive angle, is that what AI has the capacity to do is to transform a 2-man or woman or 5-man or woman company to run a 20-person company from an efficiency point of view. And what that means is that you are going to be able to generate more revenue. You're not going to be able to serve more customers without necessarily having to increase your overheads with the new businesses that you are going to get. So I think, again, it's because of the size of the businesses, probably there'll be a bit of a learning curve on that, but I think I see it from that angle that if these SMEs and those who run very small businesses, if they're able to really build tools that are around AI, I'm sure some of you have had terms like agents, for example, where literally Boris here, we are talking the other day, and we are we need to have on our org chart or your org chart, probably you need to have an employee called AI, right? Who will probably be across different departments who is actually doing work even when you're asleep or when you're not doing that. And that's the power what AI can do in transforming the way smaller businesses are able to be more efficient, able to generate more revenue, and able to be, of course, at the end of the day, build more impact in the area that they do. Yeah.
Let me give a quick run on the three. I think the first bit of, can we be a Silicon Savannah in terms of digital talent? First things first. I say, look at what is missing, not what is wrong. We are number 4 out of 54 countries in Africa. But there's a space, there's something there about where we are. M-Pesa was the first fintech conversation in the world. I've gone to places where you find business schools, Ivy League, talk about the case of M-Pesa. So I think there's something about believability that actually we've done it and we can even scale it. So that piece of can we be? Oh yes, definitely. Now, the strategy that has been set up by the government, I think, is a great one. But I don't think we are talking a lot about it. That piece of first getting everybody to be AI literate as one of the core capabilities. And then you start scaling it up. I will link it up with that question of what I found missing in terms of building capabilities. I discovered most of the schools now are trying. You hear, I've taken my kid for computer science. What does that even mean? When I brought guys to come and do codility tests, they could not do a thing. I currently chair the University Council at USIU. And to Paul's point, we've seen MasterCard come and say, why can't we work with you to develop some core skills, machine learning, AI, cloud computing, software engineering. So I think that piece, if we can now start scaling up and accelerate that, but then also get the tech companies to do the certification. Because certification is one thing that is missing in most cases. You need somebody to come and say, yes, you've done the knowledge, but can you do it? There's a difference between knowledge and skill. So I think if we can start using more of that and perhaps push some of our youth away from TikTok and predicting Arsenal, you know they will not lift the cup, to start using their time, I'm an Arsenal fan by the way, to start using their time to develop that one small skill, especially codility, especially it's a skill, not knowledge. So we have the appetite, we have proven we can do it. I think it is a matter of how we develop that team support. Bring all the players in and let's train for even the SMEs. I know the point is, and I'm a strong believer that stay in the plenty mentality. We wake up in the same home. Somebody goes to work for Coca-Cola, somebody goes to work for C-Suite, where we are only 3 employees, or you go and work for a big piece. Again, mindset. I don't believe in the sectoral conversation. If you play the piece of these skills are transferable, get some of the SME guys, people who have worked in corporate, or actually brilliant brains. So do not underestimate SME. Most of the brains that exist, some of the best brains are in SME. But the point I think we have is that we have also got the highest number of illiterate graduates. You get your degree and you think you are okay and you don't have to read or do anything else. So the atomic learning, continuous learning, collaborative learning will see us there. And it's an economy that everybody has a pie to take and play in it. Thank you.
Fantastic. I think probably a good place to stop.
Just one more, Boris.
One more? Okay.
Yes.
Let's do it.
We had someone with a question then.
Hello everyone. My name is Hamza from Rihanna Group, and I've heard a lot of insights in terms of AI on how to boost our operational efficiency. But my question is based on how to incorporate AI without losing the human touch. Because my colleague, someone has mentioned about the recruitment, and sometimes whereby you have automation, whereby the candidates can get feedback without you personalizing it. But now they go ahead and give you a call even after sending an automation email, and they would like to hear from you. So there's a lot of, also the emails that we're receiving from our colleagues, a lot of generic emails that have been sent with a lot of jargons and big words, which they are not personalized. So how can we be able to, incorporate the human touch? Are we losing the human touch in our workplaces? And how can we be able to, use AI without losing that? Thank you.
Let me finish this and my last remarks. I think that's one of the dangers of AI. There are two things around it. You may lose the human part, but also ethical considerations that play into the AI space. So it's a good thing you call out. But look at this. There was a time I advertised for my management trainees, graduate trainees. I got 10,000 applicants. Even if I recruited the whole of Kenya to do the shortlisting, there is no chance in heaven that I'll do a good job to it. So what AI would do is that it will be, you structure the kind of responses and how you complete your form to start helping you and me to look for the fit. So there's a place for AI as a tool, not a human body or a replacement of the human person. So when we did that, we discovered even the feedback from the AI is actually better than the feedback from the human beings. Did you know that? Because some of the feedback we give is actually crap feedback. We say we didn't make it, there were better candidates. And we don't even help guys to say, you stood out in this area, but there was no evidence of this. Evidence-based. You'll be surprised at what comes out of it. I've done a little bit of that in even coaching. I'm an executive coach. And we discovered when you complete your report, it starts mapping what you say you have done to certain, what does this mean? You remember when I said analytics are descriptive, diagnostic, predictive, prescriptive, and then there's big data. That is where AI is coming in. And if I listen to you, I'll say, Fuka Sakafu, cross over and stop this fear. Nikki said it. Will we replace, of course we are replacing human being, but we are replacing the part of the human part which doesn't add value. Like, did I get the answers correct? Why do you need 500,000 teachers to go and mark scripts? If you do it right, AI can do that and give you the answers on the go. I think that is, for me, the mindset that we must bring to the party. I'm still hearing a lot of bit to work on the mindset before you go to the skill set and the tool set of AI. Thank you.
I think really agree with Paul. I think the starting point or the starting place is changing the way you're thinking. And again, as I keep on insisting, look at it as a tool, and the tool should work for you. And what that would mean, unfortunately, like for example, the two areas where I'm putting myself in a HR person here, like I'm a technology person, but I'm just putting myself in your shoes, or a HR leader here. Probably recruitment and performance are areas that you think like, here I really need someone's input, I need a human being for them to be able to give feedback here. The bad and the good news is like, probably that's one of the areas that AI can really help in terms of making that data like really great and very actionable in terms of the way you look at it, and also like do all the work that needs to be done manually. But are there things that you have actually built from a system perspective that also allows you to sort of build guardrails that then, yes, this is what the AI is telling me, this is what all things that this has been done, but then how do we then go to the next level? Is it like it's a human person that is coming out to check, for example, Kasim going through 10,000 CVs, probably output of that is like, give me 5 top candidates, for example, based on some of the parameters that he will have put. At the end of the day, then he has to make that decision from the 5 on who he wants to hire. It's the same thing I would think around all through is you want the AI to do the repetitive task. You want the AI to do the things that you don't have to spend a lot of hours to do that, but then there's still the part of the human being to be able to do that. And I think it has been said a lot of time, almost becoming a cliche now, that AI is not going to replace people. It's going to replace people who don't use AI. That can be argued, both sides, that probably is going to replace people. But also if you think about it from that angle, is that actually people who are in more danger are the ones who would think like, because I need to get this perfect candidate that I think I'm the one who chose them, I have to do the whole process manual, as opposed to somebody who will say, hey, I'm dealing with 10,000 people. I want to just have a very, very clear set of parameters that I need the engine to look for, to go through and give me 5 candidates. And then from those 5 candidates, then I know what I'm going to look at, and then I'm going to make a decision that that person will probably move faster, become more successful, and chances are very high they're going to get a better candidate than you're going to have to go through all that process.
Thank you guys very much. I wanted to close on the note that Paul Kasumu had said about Kenya's impact on the world when it comes to technology and innovation, and your observation of M-Pesa case studies at Ivy League universities in the US. That resonated with me because it was almost exactly 10 years to this day, I believe, that I was in one of those classrooms in a graduate program at an Ivy League school in the US, learning about M-Pesa, and my eyes and my mind was open to what was happening in Kenya that ultimately led me to come here that same year, get into the tech space, and has led me onto this stage next to these very incredible, impressive people that I'm honored to learn from and with. It is events like this that fill me with optimism and confidence that Kenya can remain a leader, and that the future is African and the future is Kenyan through the continuous learning that you describe and the kind of connection and innovation that's facilitated by events like this. So very grateful to Workpay and Moringa for putting this on, to Mr. Kasimu and Mr. Kamani and Ms. Germany for being up here and sharing their insights with us, and to all of you who've taken out the time out of your day to come and listen and ask great questions. And I hope we can do more of this, and with that kind of mindset, I think inevitably we're going to be able to overcome the challenges and seize the day and realize the opportunity that AI presents to us as business leaders. So thank you all for being here, and I will hand it back to. All right. Thank you.
A round of applause for the panelists, please. Thank you. I think that has been a very insightful session, and if there is one takeaway that I'm going home with, if not for the very many other statements that have been made, is one, I'll do a very simple SWOT analysis of myself. Where do I want to be? Where am I right now? And what is it that will take me to get to where I want to be? I think if I have those 3 questions answered, I can easily go around and maneuver my way to where I want to be, isn't it? Now, I'm requesting us to stand just for 2 or 3 minutes. Actually, not even 2 or 3 minutes, less than that. Right, so we have our tags, and probably it will be a good opportunity for us to get to know who the other person is. Probably you read about their name on the tag, but it's good also to have a small chit chat with them, isn't it? To understand what they do. So as we set up for the next session, I want you to chat at least with 2 or 3 people. Tell them what is that one part of your role that you will gladly hand it over to an AI. Take us through a showcase of AI in action. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you all for having me here. And I've actually gotten to work with Paul and Workpay for a couple of different things, so I'm excited that you guys are leading this. Funny enough, I actually started Parity, and Moringa was the first client, but this is back when Audrey was still back in Moringa, so this kind of dates me. How many people have heard of what Parity is and what we do by a show of hands? If anybody knows what we do, okay. So we're a referral network. The way that we operate is we figured that the social capital is probably the best way to hire, and it's usually the best way based on the results. It's an underwriting effect. So when you use referrals, I wouldn't refer Paul to Workpay if I didn't think he was good, because it hurts me. But also there's an incentive structure. So if you are in the recruiting space, like majority of you are here, you know that sometimes people post a bounty, those kind of things. The way that we hacked this, and we didn't know the AI revolution was going to come into play the way it did was, but if you focus on the internal scoring, like HR people already do, and then people's social capital, usually you get the best candidates. And then you protect the gamification by making sure no one gets paid out until the candidate gets past probation. So we just used that as a model to train our machine, and internally we had HR recruiters that would sit there and validate. So if you think about the whole experience, Workpay posts a job with us, we'll have our, roughly about like 15,000 plus professional recruiters or highly networked people. And these people are going to find candidates that majority of hiring companies can't have access to. And the reason why I say they don't have access is if I know that Jess is at Google and she's doing a good job, but she's not satisfied, no one knows that except for me and Jess, because I'm her friend and we went out to have drinks or lunch, and I'm like, I bet Jess would go for this job at Workpay. No one else knows that because she's not looking. She doesn't have open to work. She's not doing any of that. When you have a whole bunch of recruiters and highly networked people, they have that insight that no one else has. The other side is we allow recruiters to monetize their already hard work, the vetted work that they've done. So Paul gave you an example. If you're hiring, you're gonna get maybe like 1,000 applications, 2,000, whatever on LinkedIn. Majority of them aren't going to be good. So you're going to vet that down, and what they use is something called like a Boolean method. It's like binary. It's just like either you have the credentials or you don't. That gets you down to like a couple hundred. Then the recruiter's going to go through that and get it down to like maybe 10. Send 10 to the hiring manager and say, pick the 5 that you want to interview. In reality, the last 9 that don't get hired are less about skill, more about fit, and they might be a good fit somewhere else. So what we did was we allowed you to monetize the hard work that you already did on candidates that you weren't able to place somewhere else. These people have been vetted by you, you know that they're good. So when people ask us, like, how does your AI work? Just look at yourself. Like, that's actually how it works. You trained our machine. And then internally, we had HR people double vet. So whatever you refer to us, we have internal HR people sitting there saying, I think this is right, or I don't think it's right. The last validating point is, do they get past probation? So 95% of our hired candidates get past probation. That is like the standard bearer. It's like, how fast do we get you 5 candidates? And we get you 5 candidates in 5 days. And do we make sure that the candidates that you hire get past probation? And we have a 95% probation pass rate for that. So that's the model. We're at now about 80,000 people in our community. 40 countries represented, and we've scored over 100,000 candidacies. So these are real world actual jobs that people have applied for, candidates have been vetted, and the way that we break it down is we have 2 functions. One is the Boolean method. If an employer is like, I need 10 years of experience and it's not a negotiation, that's a hard filter, versus I need someone that has fintech payment experience and it's Pan-African, and we are a Series B stage company. You're like, okay, that's an indexing thing. That is how relevant is it to the person in the index in the space that they're in. But that's an explanation of how all this is work. And we've built that into what is now our talent engine, and we're selling that as a subscription. So I'm just gonna demo that for you now. But I hope that kind of gives you a basis of how we operate and how we work. Can I just, does this thing go? Okay. I will do it this way. So I'll walk you through the process. This is how you would, post a job on our job board. So you would start, I'm just gonna put this down really quick, 1 second. Can you all hear me if I just talk like this? Okay. So what I'm gonna do now is just put in a bit of information, and then you can lean on AI to do stuff like this where generate a good job description. This is really critical for us. So the way the machine works is how much does your skills match the JD? And as a hiring manager, you know this, a lot of JDs are not great. So you'll go back to the person who like, this is like a paragraph. This doesn't actually give me the right person. When it comes to data, garbage in, garbage out. So if you don't put the right information in, you're not going to get a right match out. So this gives you a baseline of how to look at the information we need. And if you have one, you can go forward with it. This will give you a baseline to work with. Let's use this description. Next, I would say, so every job on our job board has salary, min, max, expectations. So this is really important in the sense that a lot of hiring managers have experienced this where you find a candidate and you're like, this person's really, really great. Let's move forward. And there's this awkward not discussing the compensation. And then you get to the part where you're like, we'd love to make you an offer, here's the offer, and the candidate's like, absolutely not. So all you did was just waste so much of that time. And if you think about it, and this is like, I probably should have started this off this way, like HR and people in recruiting don't really get appreciated until something bad happens, right? Like Paul's like, hey, here's our KPIs. Here's what we need to hit. We need to hire a product manager that does this. Work backwards. Like, you know what the recruiting process is. So if there's any gap in the way that you went about this, you've wasted maybe 2 months, 6 weeks trying to recruit this candidate, and you were way off on the basis of what the outcome is supposed to be. So whatever that KPI is for that quarter, kick that to the next quarter now. But if you do get it, you're celebrated. Just like if you have a bad, candidate fit on the team and they churn, if you can hire that and there's no wrongful termination lawsuit, etc., HR gets celebrated. But if you have something bad happen that you didn't get, you didn't create yourself, and you don't fix it, you don't get appreciated. I think that a lot of that's going to shift now with AI, because all of the work that used to be considered like the most important thing, like sourcing candidates, that's not going to be what you do. It's going to be more about vetting, making sure you don't have churn, making sure people promoted in your company are going to stay because they're the talent that you need to not have knowledge turnover. Now you'll be able to post a bounty. Like I said, bounties are, a good incentive. You can put 500, you can put 1,000, depending on the market, depending on how bad you need it. I would calculate how much, we have to spend based on the KPI and how important it is. So you post that job, and then that will just go to our job board. So you'll see now that job has now been posted. Paysac's a client that we've worked with over the years. So I can give you an example of like, here's information, here's all that I need to know if I want to apply for this job. There's 2 options. You can apply for this role directly. That gives you a clear indication that you're already interested in the role, or you can refer. This is where you activate your network effect, right? Using our model, you don't really need a LinkedIn recruiter or LinkedIn advertising, because the tens of thousands of people in our community take the jobs that are posted on our job board and then they reshare it on LinkedIn. So that's money that you would have spent on LinkedIn ads that they're going to boost. But now you get their entire network to be sourcing for you. And like I said, you don't want to be the person that's sourcing candidates. You don't even want to be the one vetting thousands of candidates. You want to be the one picking out of the 10 to 15 that you really want to review. So for this case, I'll refer myself, give you an example of what it will look like. Oh, sorry, I was just giving you a walkthrough of what I'm doing, but I'm trying to type with 2 hands to make it a little bit faster for you, but I'm sure you probably can't hear. But this is another thing I think a lot of hiring managers and recruiters appreciate. Like, has the candidate actually confirmed interest in this role? That's selling your brand. Like, if Workpay is hiring and someone in our community is pitching this job that Parity's hiring for, that candidate's going into the interview knowing that they've already been told what the compensation is. They have been referred by someone that they know that is saying this is going to be a good opportunity. And then you also have the candidate's notice period, which is really critical, as well as what their expected compensation is. So you'd submit this referral, and then this is going to take straight to our ATS, or our dashboard. So as a hiring manager, you'll be able to see who directly applied, who was a referral. You'll also have access to our database of 70,000 vetted candidates already. And this will give you a breakdown of what it looks like. So in the scorecard, you'll see the candidate's CV, their LinkedIn, their expectations on compensation, the notice period of when they can start, how did it come, was it a referral? And then this is the fit score breakdown of the AI that we've done. So this is our publicly facing stuff. So this is not as detailed as our internal dashboard is, just for privacy purposes. And this is actually a new custom tool that we've built, so you can re-rank. So for example, if you start and say I need to have the candidate be here in Nairobi, then that's a hard fixture. That means you're limited to the geographical talent that's in that vicinity or people that are willing to move. But once you shift that and you turn that off, then that means the machine now has a better ability to source candidates for you based on who's like the best fit on skill. Lastly, I would say when you look at this, you can come here and say, you know what, this candidate's being interviewed, and you'll look at your payouts. You won't owe anybody money just yet, but if you go here and shift a person to being hired, you'll see on your payouts that you now have someone to pay out, right? But this keeps everything in line because they don't get paid until the candidate gets past probation. It's a pretty long horizon for someone to try to game the system. And then the last thing I would say is the analytics. So here you'll be able to see, on average, what is the match. So I showed you that our AI will tell you like, hey, these are your candidates, your top 10 candidates. They're anywhere from like 79 to 86 percentile match for what you're looking for. And on average, you might get an 89% match. So that might beg the question of like, why am I not getting the 99% matches for my company? Self-awareness is really important. As like a hiring manager, you probably go through this all the time. There's compensation, there's like the brand equity, and there's the difficulty and scarcity of the role. We've literally had someone post a job with us that was carbon credit PhD expert with the ability to tokenize carbon credits, and I need them to move to Accra. And I was like, that doesn't exist. Like that person just doesn't exist yet. Like that's the reality of it. So like how many of those factors can we remove to about, maybe get you to something that works? Or are you willing to change something? Like, are you willing to change the location factor, things like that? But the insights that you get from this are, one, who am I attracting? Like, do I do a good job of attracting back-end engineers? We'll see on our dashboard. Like, where are they coming from? Are they coming from referrals? Who is referring them? Are there people inside my company that is referring them? This goes to culture. Like, that's a really important factor where you'll start to see like, wow, like my engineers are really good at getting me product managers for some reason. They really know who to hire in the PM space. And these are insights that you can build on top of yourself, whereas majority of the time, if you have an expert person in recruiting or HR, that person does way more than that. Like they do onboarding, they do offboarding, they do check-ins, they do like all that is way beyond the role of what they're doing. And if you're not using tools like this, you're being responsible for way more things than are like specifically focused on the humans aspect, which is the decision making. Like Perry doesn't tell you who to hire, we just tell you who not to focus on. Like here's the people that really fit what you need. It's your job to make the final decision because we don't know who you want to work with. We just know based on what you've told us, and over the 100,000 candidates that we've scored, this is more likely what you're looking for. So I would I'd stop there and open it up to any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Maybe you could walk us through a little bit through what your billing looks like, subscriptions, and perhaps if you have a free period or a trial period for the platform.
Yeah, so we're working on right now just 2 subscription options. We have the 3.5K a month and then 6K a month for enterprise. So what does that get you? You don't have to pay for ATS, you don't have to pay for LinkedIn Recruiter, advertising. You also don't have to pay success fee. So if you, we have more tech jobs, sales, marketing, some mid-major, maybe some corporates. Our average salaries are roughly around $30,000 a year. So if we were to do a 10% take rate, that'd be like 3K. So if you're gonna hire more than 3 people, it becomes disadvantageous to you to do success. It makes more sense for a subscription for us. But if you're like, I'm only gonna hire 1 person, you kind of are spending more money on our subscription. What we're doing to solve that is make a fully automated version of this. That would be a lower price tier, but we don't have that in production just yet. As far as a trial period, we're considering that for new customers. For people that have already used this, we have, I guess about this point, 61% repeat business. For people that have experienced it, we're just like, hey, this is what we're gonna give you, here's the total package. You have an internal HR PM on our side that's gonna manage the flow for you. And it's about 1/3 of what the market pricing are globally. I think global software like this is about 10 to 12K. But that's usually more Western market driven. And then sometimes they also have a success fee for the placements.
Hi, my name is Cynthia. I work at Sapoti. What's weird is that I was talking to Martin from Churaco. I was looking at parity yesterday night, but on the salary benching part of it. So it's really cool to see this. Just like you mentioned about getting candidates who are like, you're looking for somebody who's doing like credit, what is it called? Carbon credits, expertise and everything. And that's what happens with us. I mean, we are in the VC world. I'm looking for a carbon credits person. I'm looking for a vet pilot lead. I'm looking for an agronomist. So it's really hard to find the skills, and they're the ones we're really looking for. So what are you doing about that? Because I mean, there's many ways to get a sales and marketing person and product manager, but I mean, what about the niche skills and the green skills that are coming through?
Yeah, I've talked to some of these like multilateral organizations. I worked in education, so I used to. If you guys know Fred Swaniker, Achaleke, so that's where I started off. I was running an accelerator, and I helped them launch the university. So education is near and dear to my heart. I have skills verification. Like I have a huge model that's like validated by you all, like actual recruiters that are like, no, this candidate isn't good. Yes. Let me break this down even further for you. You know when you go on website and it's like draw a square around the fire hydrant? That is called data labeling. That is exactly what everything is happening in AI right now. If you want to build an accounting model, you just give an accountant a task to do and track that behavior. So when it comes to filling that skills gap, I know the skills gaps. I just don't have the ability to deploy educational tools, because if I do it, like this is the biggest issue that we have. It's not that we don't have talent. It's not that we won't be able to be the workforce for the world. Where are the jobs going to come from? Like there's like, if you think about it, there are every year there's 8 million people that join the workforce in Africa. There's only 3 million jobs created. Like I have tens of thousands of people that message me, or my WhatsApp number gets out and people are like, I need a job. I'm like, we saw what happened at QuickMart. There was like PhD Kenyans lining up around the corner. So it's hard to develop that skill because the target keeps moving. If you were to ask someone 4 years ago when crypto was going crazy, the amount of like grants to learn how to build on blockchain and everything else, and then FTX happened, so that entire industry collapsed. A lot of Africans that were like building skills in that overnight. You work at Delta 40. How many of your mandates shifted? How many of your LPs walked away? How many people stopped responding to your emails about that? Right now, we have a lot of funding going into climate, but you got to remember the investment cycle for these windows. They're usually like a 3 to 5 year deployment for capital, and then you have 8 years to recoup. If you don't see something happen in that time, the people that start down that path, they shift. Like actuarial scientists, that was a big thing, but then the bottom kind of fell out of agriculture, and then people are like, well, where are the jobs going to be? Like I need to shift to something else. And if you do it right now, like carbon credits is all the rage, but all it takes is for Europe to say, we're no longer accepting carbon credits that are not validated by this governing body, or like any country on this red list, we don't accept carbon credits for because we can't validate them. Or if one multilateral partner, like these MasterCards or any of these organizations pull the funding, all of that's gone. So for me, it's like I could tell someone, hey, build these skills, but then me looking at someone that's like, all right, if I build these skills, are there gonna be jobs? I can't really say that. So that's the kind of tug and pull. You have to have patient capital, and you have to have the expertise to be able to build that out. But the comp I would give is India. Like I've worked with a lot of people in India, and it's like a propaganda thing, it's a marketing thing. Like they have, when I was in banking in New York, I would send a lot of stuff to India. But they've built a reputation of like, we are your back office, we're competent in this, and we're affordable, and we're English, speaking, we're proficient. But like Africa has way more English speakers than India does, and it's on a better time zone. But we need to promote stabilization in the regions, like economic policies that make direct foreign capital want to stay and be patient. And then you'll start to see that kind of investment. You need to see some of those kind of successful outcomes. Like you can study, like Samsung's a great example. Like they had some success, and then universities were built around that to meet that demand, because they were like, well, we don't have enough engineers. And like, we're gonna still need them for the next 10 to 15 years. So go build a school, I guarantee you there will be jobs waiting for them. Like we don't have that catalytic energy just yet. And to to be a successful business in Africa, you immediately have to be Pan-African if you're working in our field. So you're fighting a lot of battles. So it's hard. Like the best thing I would say is like if we can import jobs, then it'll start to create a decent amount of like overflow where someone is going to have the ability to say, you know what, I don't have to leave Africa. Then that will stay here. Like that builds better engineers. They have more apprenticeship, mentorship. You have someone that can like guide you along the way. Because even if you learn it academically, it doesn't mean you have the ability to apply it. And I know a lot of hiring managers have experienced that here. Someone's CV looks great, and then they get to work and they can't work.
Hello, my name is Joy. I'm head of operations and people at Kaleza. So I'm curious about, you said you have a database of around 70,000 vetted candidates. So my question is, in the vetting perspective, so is this vetting of, for example, their credentials, or is it vetting from a perspective of recruiters? And if it is, because then that's information that's coming from individuals per se, how do you maintain the integrity of that data, right? How do you, let's say, substantiate or qualify the information I'm giving about a candidate if it's coming from my perspective?
So I would actually split that into two questions. One is like the validity of the data and like where it comes from, but then the other is like outcomes. So I always try to focus on outcomes which I can control. So we index everyone. So we might say like, I don't know, like what's a good comp for Nala? Nala, like a similar, I don't know, maybe like Paystack, they're a little bit bigger. But like you would index these certain companies and see how those candidates perform at those companies, and then how many of them get past probation. So how specific is the job match to that other job? How specific does that candidate match to that other candidate? And then determine, well, were they both successful? Then do like a reductive kind of analysis. It's like regression. You're removing all the things that don't matter to have a dependent variable. And not to get like, I can get really nerdy about this because I love like numbers and math, but it's a multivariable regression, and the only depending factor is did they get past probation, which validates they can do the job. Now the other question you asked about the validity of the inputs, that's also important. That's where social capital comes in. So if you like send us a candidate and lie about their information, it's almost impossible for that not to get surfaced, because usually we have multiple people send in the same candidate. It's not like one person makes that referral. Usually if you're good, a lot of people know. So they're gonna make the same information over and over. The data that we capture, we break it down into two different factors. Like Boolean is yes or no, they have this. Then there's something that's like, it's coming up now in AI, which is called like multi-partner models. If you were to think of it like this, imagine an equation that has a whole bunch of variables. Each one is fine-tuned for these skills. So if I find any information that's inconsistent, it might be between your CV and your LinkedIn. Our machine just kind of highlights it. It's like, there's something wrong here. But the only way we got there, and I cannot stress this enough, is we focus on getting recruiters onto our platform that are like, I can moonlight, make some money on the side because I have all these candidates. It's like an Uber driver that's like, you know, I can turn Uber on right now, let me just make some money on the side. Then the second thing is having internal recruiters. So internally, the recruiters that we have are vetting the same things that you're vetting. Then lastly, it's like triangulation through data. But it's really important having those human sides. Like that's why like right now, HR is really getting disrupted from AI, so is sales and marketing, but it's like a whipsaw effect. Very soon, and the best way I give this example is when AI came on the scene, designers started losing jobs. Because everybody's like, we don't need designers. Go look up YC's most recent call for applications. They were like, we want designer-led founders. They're like, English is gonna be the programming language. We want people that have taste. And it's so funny to come from the tech world to say something like that. But it's like, human taste is impeccable. You can't replace it. Machines can only try to mimic that. So we try to keep that valid part from like human beings feeling like, well, my reputation is on the line. Why would I lie? Because you'll get kicked off our platform. We'll just be like, you're lying. And we have proof to show that.
All right, then we can give someone appreciative.
So quick one. My name is Gilbert Amani. I'm a consultant, HR consultant with RSCG, Roosevelt Consulting Group. So, follow-up question from the lady from Peleza is, if I got her question right, or something that I haven't gotten from your answer is, part of when you're hiring, you need to verify, probably, has this person gone to university? So, and which university? And do they have the right papers to show for that? So is your platform able to do that, or do you leave that to the client?
Oh, like KYC. Oh, yeah. Like KYC stuff. Like if you say you went to this university, did you go or not? It's not, like I said, it's kind of not really relevant for us, because if you didn't go to that university, the person that referred you and like the other people, it would just come out. Like that information would kind of become invalid, because there'd be too many other people that would be like, nah, this person isn't legitimate. Now, if you're first year out of college, we don't have enough data. Like, so if you're just coming as a senior graduating, but that's also not the jobs that we post. So there's no jobs on our platform, that there is so little data that it would be hard for us to validate the information. But then on the final side of like KYC, you're gonna have to onboard at the company and the client, and they're gonna find that information out. We haven't had any issues like that, because there's nothing like social capital. Because if you refer to someone like that, it's so easy to know who it came from. Like it's gonna be directly right back at your doorstep. I'm like, hey, this person did this and you lied about it, did you know? So it immediately puts you in a position where you have to take accountability. And that's where you have like cultural responsibility. It's like what it means to be in communion or have a community. It's really hard to do that when you don't know each other. So we validate you by joining on. As a referrer, you have to like give us your KYC, because we have to pay you through our payroll. So that's usually how we do it. It's never really been an issue. It's like, it's solved by the fact that you're in our community.
Thank you so much. Let's give a round of applause to Awesome. Me too. You can clap for me. It has been a long ride, isn't it? Since 7, we are coming to the end of today's program. And in the last session, probably, we'll have around 5 minutes or 10, a reflection moment. Yes, so for the conversation we've had here today, I want you to reflect a bit on how important is it in your role back at your office, in whatever thing you do for company ABC XYZ. All right, is there someone who would like to share something they've thought of? How AI could actually be very, very important in their role, and how it could impact the way he or she works, if it is improving efficiency, productivity, talk of the big words that people talk about when you get there, isn't it? Yes. So what is that one thing you're going to stop about AI? You've thought, maybe you know that is how it is, but now probably you're looking at it from a different angle. That is not it. What is that one thing? Maybe you would like to share that with us. If you're confident enough, you would like to stop.
Hi everyone. My name is Brian Buru. I'm a product manager for Workpay. Not necessarily stop, but maybe an eye-opener. Most people we have seen AI on one side of the coin, which is how I use it. And something interesting that I've learned from Veronica's question is, as much as I use it and I put it into the product, there's the angle of, is the consumer able to consume it as it should be? Of which I really never really thought about until today. So I've always looked at it from the one angle. Am I using AI for the best that I can use it for? But it will get to a point where, and I'll use her case, where the Gen Zs probably did a very good job in that report using AI, but the consumers, because they knew it's AI, they didn't want to perceive the information that came from the AI to actually merit whether it was good or not. So I think the one thing that I will stop doing is assuming that everyone is knowledgeable and probably become more of an ambassador to try and change people's mindsets. Because that's one thing I took on today. Mindset is important to solve for, other than just layering on tool sets and skill sets. Mindset is very important to be able to deliver. So as a product manager as well, I think that's the one thing that I can take on to figure out how I can do that through the system as well.
Round of applause for him, please. Thank you. That sounds like the sessions we've had. They've been very insightful and very, very helpful, isn't it? Are you all tired? All right, we have someone here.
Good morning. Sorry. Oh yes, it's still morning. I think from a stock perspective, a lot of things have been said about content. Most of us who are in the space of creating content every day, whether it's for our personal brands or the brands that we do represent, I think it's the mind of understanding, and I think Paul Kasimu touched on that, understanding what AI can do for you and not delegating everything. We have all fallen, or we have seen people fall into the pitfalls of the same content within a specific sector, because we are all using the same tools to generate content, and especially on social media platforms. I think one of the takeaways for me, and maybe not just off of this conversation, is off of other AI-based conversations that I may have had in the course of this week as we were preparing for this event, is that mindful use of AI, so that it's not really replacing. I cannot really find full value of it if I'm not using it in the right way. So maybe stop all the ChatGPT generated content. It's sad to hear that actually the effect is worse than we thought, because when you looked at the biggest risks when you were doing the exercising earlier, nobody thought about lost business. And I think it pains differently for you, Veronica, when you understand that this can actually cost you. And maybe also to understand how the different generations interact with AI. I think it's good to be mindful that there is a generation that has lived their entire life with tech. They don't know anything else. There is a generation that has known tech in their adulthood. How do they interact with that as well, so that the expectations are also easy on the employees or on the people that you're trying to push these conversations for. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jess. Maybe the last question before we move to the next session. I would like us to think about this. In what ways do you intend to modify or enhance your approach to AI to achieve better outcomes in our places of work? Think through. Again, let us go back on that desk. If you're using a desk, how many of us work on the couch? Yes, if you use the couch, probably you'll never have an opportunity to get to a desk. Let's think about it. In what ways do we intend? And we said initially from the speakers and the panel here, they mentioned that that has to be very intentional, isn't it? Yes, so looking at it, your operations, your team members, and even a very important aspect of the information that we've gathered here from what our brother has shared, we're looking at it, the consumers as well in the picture. So how do you intend to modify or enhance your approach to AI and achieve better outcomes? Again, think about it within your role and what your team does, how AI can enhance the way they approach for better outcomes. Anybody that would like to share?
I think my biggest thing and how really something I would want to change is the approach. I think right now we sort of have let everyone use AI the best way they think they can use it. If it's ChatGPT, use it the way you think you can make the best use of it. I think someone mentioned here, can't remember whether it was Pauline or Nikki, like, do you even allow people to use their own personal ChatGPTs, or do you have an approach to use a company-based chat GPT. So for me, it's about the approach and having regulations on how we use AI within the company. So that maybe the things like Veronica is saying, losing a deal because of people just used ChatGPT without a clear structure. So it's more about having that strategy and guidelines on how do we make use of AI in our everyday working at the company. Yeah.
Thank you. A round of applause for you, please. So, esteemed ladies and gentlemen, I am really hoping that from the conversations we've had, you have a takeaway to go back to your workplaces. You are now going to be the champion for AI, ensuring that our workforce is AI ready, and that starts with us, isn't it? We did mention that people who are responsible for ensuring there is good culture of AI, ensuring that AI readiness in the organization, it is everybody's responsibility. You as a HR partner, people and culture, business leader, IT executives, it is everybody's responsibility. So as we live here today, we get to know that we've got a responsibility to do and a role to play to ensure that we are preparing our workforce very ready to be able to use these tools in the right way for the benefit of not only our businesses, but also our consumers, all right? Allow me to welcome Cynthia to have us the last remarks for this session as we close today's session. Let's appreciate her as she comes, please.
Wow, that was such a really good conversation, and I think I am looking around the room and I could see everyone was taking some notes. So it means this discussion that we have had has slapped us a good one, that we're going to go out there and we're going to speak about how AI is, we're now going to be ready to implement AI in our workplaces. So I'm here to give you the vote of thanks, and I'm really happy that we had our audience, our speakers, the MC, thank you for the interaction, we really appreciate, and most importantly, for even the Parity CEOs for showing us the AI and how it can be implemented when it comes to recruitment. Just before we leave, let us just take this QR code. We would want some feedback from you. It's very important so that we can continue having such conversations that are curated to our market. And then also, when you scan that QR code, we have two buttons. One is expressing your interest. Can you be able to reach out to you as Workpay and as Moringa so that we can continue with these conversations and see how we can help you? And then now the other one is for you to give us feedback. Did you enjoy the breakfast? How was the conversation? What really stood out to you for you so that the next time when you're thinking about such an event, we are going to put that in mind. Then most importantly, we still have some breakfast. We also have the room, you can continue interacting and talking with your fellow people who have attended this event so that you can also get to know what can they be able to provide. But just after that, we can give a lot of applause for everyone. I know you guys are doing your QR codes right now, but I'd like us to clap for the different groups that were represented today so that they can also feel encouraged and they can continue providing thought leadership when it comes to tech and AI. How does that sound? Can we stand up a bit, we shake a bit, so that we see whether that content, all that information that we downloaded today has actually stuck, or we are going to come back and ask ourselves, hey, what did we learn? Yeah. So I'll say each and every category and we'll do 3 claps, okay? So the first category of people I'd like to thank are our guest speaker, Pauline. Please let's give her 3 claps. Nice one. So it's 1, 2, 3. Then I say the next person. So let's practice again for Pauline. Yeah. Okay, so 3 times 3. But that was really good. And then for our next, we want to give 3 times clap. So that's 9 to our panelists for the discussions that they gave us. We'll start with our moderator, Boris. So 1, 2, 3, go. Perfect. And then now for our panelists, Nikki and the Paul K squared. 3 times. Awesome. And then now for Parity, the CEO for Parity, Jacob. Then for our MC, Joachim. And then for the organizers, Moringa School and Workpay. And then most definitely for all of you, I think this one you can even have a swag. So we have 3 claps and then we, yeah, then we do like 3 of them, okay? Let's start. Awesome. And then, of course, for me, you guys need to clap for me. Yeah, so that was awesome. Let's continue having the conversation even in our platforms, on our LinkedIn, on our all our pages. Let's continue with this conversation because we've also learned Africa is a bit behind.
My name is Sarah. I head career services at Moringa School, and it's such a privilege to have you guys here. We are honored that you answered our call. The one thing that we're very keen on is just to make sure that we are consistently keeping up with the trends and also equipping our students and graduates as far as trends in tech are concerned. So mine was just literally to echo what Workpay have said, that AI is the next frontier, right? Actually, it's right here. And the one thing that we're consistently asking is, do we have the right talent for it? Do we have people who we can take into our organizations from a HR perspective, from an operations perspective, that can be able to drive that narrative for us? So in the event that you'd require tech talent that is skilled in AI, I am your person, as brief and to the point as I am. Karibuni sana, and please, as you leave, take a gift. We once again really appreciate having you here.
Thank you so much. We are free to leave. Breakfast is still available. If you want to go into brunch, still very much available. You can serve as we network, as we talk, as we have these other conversations. Thank you so much for coming.
This has been an important conversation for Workpay because at the heart of what we do is people, and we want to ensure and encourage every other HR professional across Africa that we have the right tools to help them manage and pay employees anywhere in Africa.
Today was phenomenal. Thank you. I was honored to deliver the keynote speech. We learned so much from all the speakers, the panel, and I'm especially intrigued by Parity, Jacob's presentation, how they have managed the whole recruitment process and how they're able to get referrals and just manage a certain element of the HR process that can be so tedious. So that stood out for me.
I think this was a very interesting session, and I am glad I attended because it's time for us to think about how to integrate AI in our day-to-day operations to ensure that we remain competitive and we find better ways of working. So the takeaway is that AI should be at the forefront.
I'm very glad to have had an opportunity to come to this event. I have learned a lot, especially when it comes to AI and how ready we are. At Workpay, what we do, we provide global payroll for global companies, and we are glad that we can be able to be incorporated in this ecosystem in discussing how AI is affecting businesses in Africa.
Key takeaways for me was the importance of really integrating AI into our day-to-day activities, operational, they of course increase efficiency and productivity within our organizations. And the most important part is do we have the right talent within our organizations to drive forward this narrative?
We have discussed many things, including ways of rolling out AI, how to combat AI, the impact of AI, and perhaps how to counter the risks associated with AI. It has been very impactful, and I think going forward, many institutions are going to embrace AI, which is the new culture in the workplace.
So for me, what stood out was just building that innovative culture as HR and supporting our staff members, to build platforms or even like spaces or innovation hubs where they can use AI to support their day-to-day duties without necessarily demonizing their use of AI.
So one of the key takeaways for me has been the need for businesses to do a skill gap analysis to ensure that they are able to identify what areas various team members can upskill in, and various team members can also automate using AI. So for that, we would like to invite different teams, HR leads, L&D managers to work with us here at Moringa to ensure that their teams are able to either reskill or upskill, not only in AI, but also in other tech-related programs. For example, data analytics, data science, cloud computing, robotics, and so much more. So we look forward to many, many more events. And the team at Workpay, we are grateful for this collaboration, and we hope for many, many, many more collaborations. And next time we hope to do it bigger and better.